everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Chase with Jason. We got a lot for you on this week's edition of The Chase with Jason, and knowing that we're at the point of the season where we're getting closer to the playoff time coming up for high school football, and we're pretty much right into the grind for the college football season as well. So there's a lot to be going on and talking about for Chase with Jace. It's a pretty good show. So today we have our Slinging with Marcus segment as usual, but with a little bit of a twist this week, and I will explain why. Then also, our Player of the Week show, as usual, we'll interview the Player of the Week too, that you'll get to see right here on The Chase with Jace, and follow that with, I did an interview with Dunham head football coach Neil Weiner talking about their impressive 42-0 win against Episcopal. That was my vote for the top performance of the week, team performance of the week for week number 7. Then we'll talk some high school football and some college football to wrap up the show. So we got a lot for you on The Chase with Jace, starting with Slinging with Marcus. I catch up with Marcus Randall to talk a little bit about the Woodlawn Panthers, but not only about those Panthers, but also about the LSU Tigers. They're coming off a big victory in the middle of the SEC season against their arch rival, Florida Gators. So it was a good week for the Panthers, and it was a good week for the LSU Tigers. I chat with Marcus Randall. Usually I know we're in the studio in the other room right here in this office talking about the LSU Tigers, but knowing that the Woodlawn Panthers have a huge game this week against the Catholic High Bears, my alma mater. Well, Marcus Randall, he had to be with his team, and we actually did this interview around that time before practice started, so this is actually a Zoom edition of Slinging with Marcus on The Chase with Jace. Check it out. Hello, everyone. This is the Chase with Jace, Slinging with Marcus, virtual edition today. I know Coach Randall is trying to get some busy work with the Panthers this week, and they're actually about to start practice pretty soon. But, Coach, first of all, just before we go to the LSU, y'all back on the win column this past Friday against Liberty, getting the victory. And it was a very impressive victory. A matter of fact, I believe 38-7 was the final score against Liberty. And talk about really, I know Ricky Collins had his normal night, but a lot of the conversation from that game had to be your running back Javion Haynes. Talk about how he was able to perform this past Friday night.
Yeah, man. He came out, had some great runs for us. The offensive line did some great blocking, and he was able to find those holes and be able to hit those holes. Those are some of the things that we've been preaching on in the last few weeks, as that offensive line been gelling in the passing game as well as getting better in the run game. So, man, we was able to see it all get put together last week, and we was able to see Javion Haynes break off some of those runs that we knew he could make, and that we knew he had in his arsenal, being the speedster that he is. We're obviously glad to see that as we keep moving forward through this district play.
That's not what a lot of people realize. Everybody talks about Ricky, but being like a future LSU Tiger, but he got a future Raging Cajun in the backfield too that complement him. So, and it's good to get him really going. And I heard that y'all were able to convert on a couple onside kicks too. So talk about that facet of the game on Friday night.
Yeah, it was some things that we saw on tape that if we saw them do those things in the game, that we were going to definitely try to take advantage of it. And it worked out in our favor. You know, the game plan that we came in with, special team wise, we executed it, and it's been pretty much like that the last 3-4 weeks. Man, we found little things on special teams to try to give us that edge in either the field position or either in trying to steal one of those possessions right there, and we was able to do that.
That's proven to be a really strength for the football team for y'all right now, what you're able to do on special teams, and that obviously helped really get the scoring early, for y'all against Liberty. Coach, who are some players that, I know Clayton Adams had a really good game for y'all, and I know Ricky threw a couple of touchdowns. The offensive line, like you mentioned, started to gel. Who are some guys that really deserve, really a lot of credit for y'all getting the win on Friday night?
Well, you just said some of those things is our kicker. I know our kickers normally don't normally get a lot of praise, but we were able to execute two onside kicks where we was able to get them, and we had great placement. Man, we hit a 42-yard field goal early in the game when we had a good drive going offensively, and we was able to end it with, scoring points there with a 42-yarder. So I want to definitely praise him and the things he's been able to do for us special team-wise, also knocking down all of the extra points. And moving forward, like you said, Ricky had a great game. I think that our offensive line starting to gel. Javion Haynes, as you mentioned, Tremont Douglas had some big catches in there. He had some big catches in there, as well as Clayton Adams that you spoke on. Justice Turner was another one that, had a couple of catches in there. One drag route where he took about, 40 yards, setting us up in great field position. And defensively, we played well all night, keeping them to 7 points. I thought that they had a pretty good offense, especially coming into this game. Watching them on tape, they spread it out well. They have a decent run game, but they got a quarterback back there that can run it and throw it, and that can hurt you if you allow him to. So we was able to keep him kind of bottled up. That was our game plan going in, and we was able to execute.
Yeah, and good that you mentioned Tremont. I know Tremont got a touchdown too. Tremont and Clayton had touchdowns from Ricky, and defensively, I mean that's hard to do. Even though Caleb Jackson not really being in the game really much for Liberty over the last couple of weeks. Still, that's a really good quarterback that y'all to play against in Colin Gross, and for y'all defense to really shut them down really shows a lot about your team on the defense side of the football as well.
Yeah, and those are some of the things you want to see as we getting deeper into the season and into district play, trying to get geared up for the playoff. We want to start seeing some of the things that we've been speaking about all year long on correcting or getting better at. You want to see those things start to happen in the games.
Well, I know that you're getting ready for a pretty big game. Actually, against my alma mater this Friday against the Catholic High Bears. I know y'all got Catholic number last year, and now this year y'all playing against Catholic High. Like Zachary, I mean that's pretty much like the cream of the crop when it comes to Louisiana high school football. And just what's really the message for your guys? I know this is the first day. Second day of the week as we're doing this, but what's just really the message for a game week, especially y'all coming off of some momentum from the win last week, going to play against an opponent like Catholic High?
Well, we basically coming in, we looking at the game plan, looking at some things that they like to do. We had an introduction day, on Monday, so we had a chance to introduce it to the guys. Show them some of the things that they're going to see on Friday, some of the fronts, some of the formations from the offense that they like to run, and some of their bigger plays. So, man, we had, a real good skull session there on Monday, kind of walk through stylish. We're going to get back at it again today and move a little bit faster. But, man, we got to go out and just play sound football. I think that we've had a chance to eliminate some of the turnovers that we had, early on in the season. Now we just got to kind of get rid of those penalties. I mean, that's something that I've still been harping on right there, is trying to eliminate negative plays and eliminate penalties. And that's going to be a key for us this game.
Yeah, and that's always a key when you're playing against a really good football team. But like I mentioned last week, we were talking a little bit about this. Ever since Woodlawn comes off a loss and LSU comes off a loss, they come up with a vengeance, and the Panthers bounce back. The Panthers get a win, and your LSU Tigers get a win too on this past Saturday night. So we're talking about LSU now. It was a great victory for LSU, and being a former quarterback yourself, I know it really means a lot for you to see Jaden had the performance that he did this past Saturday. 6 touchdowns, and you look in the history books, if there wasn't this guy named Joe Burrow, to play at LSU, Jaden, that would have been the greatest LSU quarterback performance of all time if you exclude all the times Joe Burrow had this phenomenal games in 2019. So what do you think really clicked for Jaden Daniels for him to have that type of a football game this past Saturday?
It looked like some of the things that we spoke on from last week that they were going to need to be successful and to be successful this week happened. Man, he was able to get the ball out of his hand, hit receivers. I know we spoke about it last week, and we saw Brian Kelly kind of, pull him to the side there during that game against Tennessee about, taking a one-on-one matchups. And as we saw this week, he stayed in the pocket. He let the ball go. He was efficient with the football, but he also allowed his playmakers to make plays. And that's what I think that they have been wanting to see him do, especially when he got the one-on-ones. Man, I think we got some of the best wide receivers like we've been preaching all year, even since the preseason. I mean, they got guys like Brian Thomas going up with one-on-one balls, and he determined to come down with them. You know, Jeray Jenkins still making big plays. We still got Malik Neighbors making plays once you give those guys a chance with the ball in the air. They're able to go and make those plays for you. And he didn't have to run as much, you know, this past game. I think the game slowed down for him. I think that he was able to see some of those things. I saw him stay in the pocket longer than what he's been doing all year long, and you know, keeping his eyes downfield. And instead of just taking off running at the first sight, you know, still keeping his eyes to see if he can still make throws and get the ball to the playmakers. And that's what he was able to do well.
And Kayshawn got involved too, got his first 100-yard performance of the season. And like you mentioned, we've seen like Jaden Daniels in some games like distribute the football to different receivers, but I believe this was the first time we actually got to see that explosiveness from these receivers, like you mentioned. Like we saw Brian Thomas and Jeray get big catches downfield. It finally showed like the confidence. Like they've been preaching about the Jane Daniels, like throw the ball downfield. And it was actually a good lesson to have because he saw some results when he did actually throw the one downfield.
And I think that's going to that momentum just going to be able to carry over because, like you say, I think that he saw that, you know, playing it too cautious. Again, I think it's some of the stuff that we spoke about last week. I think we were playing a little too cautious with the football. And I think that he was able to see some things happen for him this past week by, you know, letting the ball go. And he actually made great throws of putting the ball in position or in spots where our guys can get it or nobody can get it. And our guys were able to make those plays.
And he extended plays, drives on third downs, and he was just very efficient, 23 for 32, 349 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. And in fact, we talk about how it was a struggle for this offense to start off games fast, but they had 6 straight touchdown drive to start off a football game. So that's starting a football game off right. So offense, everything was clicking. In the running game actually did pretty good throughout the game. Josh Williams actually got the game ball. We talked all about Jaden Daniels and his big plays and everything and how efficient he played. But in the end, Brian Kelly gave the game ball to Josh Williams because of what he was able to do, not only run the football, he had over 100 yards rushing for the first time in his career, but in pass protection and receiving the ball out of the backfield. And those little things come a long way in an offensive performance like that.
Well, yeah, when you have a back that could, you know, all around back that could do it all, it allows your offense to be so much more explosive, especially when you don't have to rotate guys in to get certain things done that you need done where guys can game plan against you when certain guys in the game. When you got guys that can do it all, you know, people got to play a little bit more honest. And like you said, he was able to run the ball, able to block, able to catch it out the backfield. So, I mean, when you got those kind of things going on, man, you got a good back right there, and you can pretty much do anything that you need to do offensively.
And defensively, like it's usually been like the opposite this year. The defense has really, you know, been in charge, and the offense been struggling starting the football games. Well, it's kind of the opposite in the Florida game. They gave up some big strikes early in that football game. Florida scored a touchdown on their second play of scrimmage. They scored another touchdown, and it was really a back and forth game starting off the football game. And when it seemed like the defense settled in throughout the third quarter, all Florida has to do is put on Tom Petty, and all of a sudden Florida decides to wake up, and that's when Anthony Richardson had that highlight reel touchdown run.
The highlight reel, yeah. Well, but I think up until that point, we kind of had him, had him about. But I don't want to say we were just stopping them all the way, but we had him contained, and we had we pretty much had the game in wraps almost, at that point. And like we spoke about it, I think you said it best last week. Man, we had that he was going to be able to run the ball. That's what he likes to do, and we needed to stop him from running. And then we saw that, in that big long run that he broke off right there late in the game to give him some more life.
But the defense found a way to get it done. There were some positives. I mean, Harrell Perkins continues to be a freak for
right.
Of what he's able to do on the football field. And we saw a lot of Savion Jones too, and he played really good. And he showed that a lot of flashes too of this could be a really another nice piece once it gets more and more playing time. But overall, LSU wins. They go on the road. You talked about you played in this environment of how tough it is to go
Yep.
and win the game in the swamp, and that's what they did. And LSU, I know it was sweet for Brian Kelly to get that win against Florida, against Billy Napier. I know it really sucks for Florida, knowing that there was a lot of those Louisiana connections. You know, they really wanted that one. But LSU, I mean, they got going like this is kind of like mid part of the season, middle of the season, and right now LSU is hitting their stride right now. It's a good time to hit one stride because you're going look at this schedule right in your face with Ole Miss coming this week, and then you get a bye, then Alabama, and then, like it doesn't get any easier. So for this team to get a win like at this point in the season and do it in that fashion when they were moving the football, it was fun for LSU. You can tell that they were having fun out there.
Right.
That really changes really the complexion of a season.
And when you playing the game the way it's supposed to be played, and everybody doing their 111, doing their job, man, that is fun. I mean, that is the game that makes it fun. And obviously, and you can start getting some good results that way too as well. When everybody doing their part of the puzzle, and that's what we were able to see. Like I said, and talking about Harrell Perkins, I know he didn't get a chance to do much in the Tennessee game, and I know we spoke about that too. But you saw that the impact he can make when he is on the field. So he was able to get out there and make some things. So, man, everybody playing their role and being able to, do it at a high level, man, that's fun. That's football. That's what you practice for. And when you see it all come together, man, it's like beauty.
Oh, yeah. It was beautiful to watch. And LSU gets another win. So they improve. And now if you look at it, LSU is right in the mix of it in the SEC West right now. Like, if they beat Ole Miss, they're tied for the lead in the SEC West. If they
right.
do go at home and beat Ole Miss, and right now LSU is actually a slight favorite against an undefeated top 10 Ole Miss football team according to Vegas right now. But Lane Kiffin's very familiar with Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly's very familiar with Lane Kiffin. They coached against each other when Kelly was at Notre Dame and Kiffin was at USC, so they obviously know each other. But on Saturday, LSU Ole Miss for the Magnolia Bowl trophy. You're a part of this game. This is another rivalry in the SEC West. But if LSU finds a way and gets a victory, then this whole season is going to take a very different look than what we
It's going to be definitely different. It's going to be, like you said, especially with Alabama taking the loss that they did to Tennessee on this side. It's going to definitely take a wild turn right here. And and everybody else, it'll make for the big matchup when 2 weeks from now. If we can go ahead and do what we need to do, which I'm with Vegas on this one. I see us as a slight favorite, even though they are ranked pretty high. The last few times that they've come here, we've handled our business. I mean, it's been tight games, but we've done what we needed to do. So I'm looking for another one of those stellar performances. It's going to be in Tiger Stadium. We're going to have home field advantage. And I think that after this week right here, we can do what we need to do, man. It's going to be a big matchup, showdown.
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, so this is a huge game. It's going to be on CBS at 2:30 on Saturday with LSU and Ole Miss, and whoever wins that, it sets themselves up, for at least having it in your own destiny. And that's what you're really want as a football team. And if LSU does defeat Ole Miss, then that LSU Alabama game, that could be really for the right who goes into Atlanta.
Correct. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. It's going to be a showdown for it. And like you say, I know we looked like we had ups and downs this year, but, all that goes away with a win this week.
Yeah, it would definitely be by far Brian Kelly's biggest win as LSU head football coach if they're able to defeat a team that's been undefeated this year in Ole Miss. And, Lane Kiffin, he's always got tricks up his sleeves with Ole Miss as far as play calls. And like Mike Leach, expect the unexpected when it comes to Lane Kiffin.
Yep. So, man, I'm looking for him to do some good things right here.
Yeah, it should be really fun. Marcus, do you have a score prediction for Saturday?
I didn't hear you say it again.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a score prediction for Saturday?
But I think it's gonna be a high scoring game there. You know, basically being able to see our offense take flight the way that they were able to do this past weekend, and then with the way you know, Ole Miss like to throw the ball and the offense that they run, I'm looking for a pretty, you know, a 35-38 type football game, a 42-20, you know, 28 football game. I'm looking for a high scoring game there, and I'm looking for us to be able to pull it off and really take control early in this game.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest question for LSU. If that's just like this one game where everything came together, or if this is a start of something like the light bulb actually flickering on for this offense, and that's something that can last. That's really going to be the main question for Saturday.
Well, I think that, and we'll be able to tell that early in the football game. If we can come out and ready to play football, you know, for 4 quarters right here, we will see that this is, you know, this past weekend, we will be able to look at this Florida game and say that was the game where they put it together and they took flight for the rest of this season.
Well, hopefully it's signs of things to come, not only for LSU, because this is a game where this could really take the season to the next level, but obviously for y'all too, for Friday. If you know, especially coming off a win like LSU, y'all have another big time game in the district, like the SEC West with LSU, when y'all have Catholic High. So if y'all able to get the win on Friday, like LSU, that makes the whole difference.
Thank you.
Yep, it'll definitely better take us to where we need to be. It'll set us up, you know, in a great position in district right now, even though with the loss that we have, and it'll set us up for a great place in the playoffs right now. So this is a big game for us too as well, to be able to come in, especially for seeding purposes when we start talking about, you know, making that playoff run.
Yeah, we're getting to that final stretch for the Panthers, and we're getting that final stretch for the LSU Tigers. And with that, I know Coach Marcus Randall has himself his hands full, so I'm gonna let him go. I'm gonna let him do his thing with his football team. But Coach, thanks a lot for all you do with us at Gridiron, and then we'll definitely catch up with you on Slinging with Marcus next week, and hopefully the Panthers and the Tigers get it done.
Yep, and man, we'll reconvene next week and we'll see what it looked like.
Oh, we'll see. But hope y'all guys enjoyed this virtual edition of Slinging with Marcus on the Chase with Jace. Welcome back from commercial break. Hope you enjoyed that segment with Marcus Randall. As I talked with Marcus about give his thoughts on the LSU quarterback situation with Jaden Daniels, as he had himself a great performance, and actually one of the greatest quarterback performances that we ever seen from an LSU quarterback. If it wasn't for just some guy named Joe Burrow, that would be the greatest quarterback performance in LSU football history. 6 touchdowns in the win over Florida. Now the biggest question is, can Jaden Daniels keep that up, that performance up? Is this a game where it was a fluke and everything was just going right for LSU, or can they build upon that going through this SEC gauntlet, which starts this Saturday? Again, SEC West matchup against the Ole Miss Rebels. So that's going to be a huge game, and whoever comes out on top of this game, well, they're going to be one of the favorites for SEC West division title. Maybe a chance to play in Atlanta. Crazier things have happened, and if LSU does beat Ole Miss, then that sets them up with a tie for first place with Alabama. And from there, LSU would control their own destiny if they do defeat Alabama. But they have to find a way to get it done first against the Ole Miss Rebels. They're coming in undefeated and number 7 in the country. It should be a great game in Tiger Stadium. I'm so excited to be there. It should be a really good one. I'm looking forward to being there on Saturday afternoon. Coming up, we have our Player of the Week show, which we've done with Tyler Barros. Has been my co-host the last couple of weeks. Myself, Andy Bryson, Tyler, the whole crew here at Gridiron Football. We vote every Monday. All the selections come in from high school coaches coming in, and we sit down, we talk about it, and we vote on who the Player of the Week should be. And it's been a really going through it a couple weeks in which has been really just offensive players. But this week comes with a little bit of a twist in mind. So that's all I'm going to say. But in order to find out who the Player of the Week is, you just have to sit down and tune in and watch. But you're going to check it out right here. Check out our Player of the Week show earlier this week. And I tell you what, it's definitely different from the norm when it comes to the Player of the Week. Check it out and see who it is for week number 7 as we kind of reach that final stretch of the regular season. Hello everyone, I'm Jace Lejeune from Gridiron Football, and with me as always is Tyler Barros again.
Yes,
He's
sir.
becoming a regular staple here on the Gridiron Football Player of the Week show.
Yeah, no, I think this is like the 4th week in a row I've been doing this. I mean, I just love to kind of sitting here and, talking about some great football and some great performances. I mean, we have some good ones this week. I guess we always get a mix of, sometimes it's the week of the running back, the week of the quarterback, the week of wide receiver. I feel like this week we kind of got a good mix of everything. We got some defense players in there. And,
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this list, honestly.
Just in case you are wondering, so the tally right now, if you're keeping score at home, 2 running backs for a Player of the Weeks in week 1 and week 2, a quarterback in week 3, a wide receiver in week 4, another quarterback in week 5, and in week 6 back to the running back. So that we have 3 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, and a receiver right now. And Tyler, I hate to put you on the spot, but we have a live studio audience for us today. So Justin Prejean, who is actually a Broadmoor graduate, which is not really good news for Luke, who's sitting right here, as that's a rival of the Bel Air Bengals. But Justin Prejean's here. A big fan of LSU football, a big fan, and he's coming here just to check us out and check us out. Our show that we do for week 7. This is week 7 Player of the Week. And then Mike Brown is also here joining us in the audience. And me and Mike really share one quality that we have to get to call Andy Bryson our boss. I'm not sure if that's actually a fortunate thing or unfortunate thing, but I can definitely call Mike up if we have any problems with Mr. Andy Bryson. We'll actually come together and speak on Andy. So Andy better watch out. Make sure he takes good care of Mike and as far as Jace as well. So making sure Andy gets that PSA announcement. But yeah, we appreciate them for being here and watching our show today. It's good to get a little studio audience involved.
Yeah, it's a little different environment, kind of. Before, it's either me or you or, someone else here, but it's kind of cool, we actually got a live audience, but, ready to get into this top 10, top 15.
Right, and also Will Lamphere and Lucas Berger as well do a great job, our interns as well. They cover Bel Air, they cover Scoutonville, you cover Madison Prep, and before we go into the Player of the Week, that was a heck of a game with U High and Madison Prep. I mean, it was a back and forth game, and that really was going to decide who would come out with district play. Right now, your Madison Prep Chargers, they're at number 1 right now, and they are in the lead when it comes to the district championship.
Yeah, it came out victorious in an incredible game, one of the best games I probably. Not even just watching wise, on TV or, being live, like, actually one of the best games I've ever been to. I mean, start up, in the first quarter, they score on the second play, 80-yard touchdown, go up 16-0, and then, unfortunately defense let up 30 unanswered points, but, they they didn't back down from the challenge. I mean, they got right into it. I mean, I want to shout out one play. There's a time where Todd Johnson, gets knocked out of the game. Backup quarterback goes in the game. I believe his name's Lawrence Robertson. I mean, if I'm wrong, sorry about that. But, I mean, Lawrence comes in there, instead of giving the ball right to the running back, he drops back and he just throws one up to David Jones. I mean, it was a 50-50 ball, but, David Jones, he's going to go up there, he's going to make those plays. And, I mean, yeah, they came back and won in victorious fashion. I mean, 7 seconds left, they hit a game-winning field goal to win 40-37. So, yeah, honestly, it was a great performance from the Master Prep team, both teams, honestly, UI as well. But, yeah, be looking forward to seeing them, play hopefully down the road in district play. You never know.
Oh, yeah, but they right now are in the lead, and they're in the driver's seat right now for a district championship, especially when you play and beat U High, and it doesn't get any easier because I believe they have to go on the road and play Warren Easton.
Yes,
so that doesn't get any easier.
Going down to New Orleans again, faced up Brother Martin week 1, but looking at come out victorious this time. I mean, I think this team, they're young, kind of inexperienced team, but they're kind of getting that experience they really need to become a better team. And I feel like at quarterback, Tyler Johnson, he's really shown that he can really be one of the best quarterbacks in the not even just to say Louisiana, he could really be top best quarterback in the country at this level 2025 I think. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how they go up against
Warren Easton.
Sorry about that. Yep. And see how they play against them. I think it'll be a really good game, especially the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, Warren Easton's a really good football team, and we saw their battles with the car over the years in Class 4A, and actually they gave Ruston, I think, their only loss this year.
Oh wow!
And Ruston's they beat LCA this year. They've been beating a lot of really good football teams. So we're going to go into Week 7. So this is Week 7, and all these names that you're about to hear, they were submitted by the high school coaches. So we didn't have any input on who was going to be the player, like the top stat guy. These are all were submitted by high school coaches, and I just want to appreciate all those high school coaches that came and submitted their nomination for the Player of the Week, and then also their coach and player. Whoever wins Player of the Week, they get an interview with me on the Chase with Jay show. So the last couple of weeks, the player that wins and is the Player of the Week not only is number 1, gets their highlights shown, gets their picture in our article, but they get to do an interview as well and talk about their performance. But it's not just the top player we talk about. We talk about everybody that is submitted. So moving forward, we're going to continue to do this. The numbers have been really good for the Player of the Week show. We put it on YouTube, put it on Facebook, and the numbers have been really good. So I appreciate everybody that's watching the show. And yeah, please share it with everybody that you can, friends, family, coaches, players. It doesn't matter. Just share the show. We're doing this for the players, and that's what it's all about. And we want to recognize what they do on every Friday night. So it doesn't matter if you're the smallest 1A school or the biggest 5A school in Louisiana. We're going to recognize your talent. As long as your coach, definitely sends the submission, we're definitely going to recognize you. So this week, it's been about our average this year. About 25 submissions from high school coaches that sent in their Player of the Week nomination. And we're going to start with the honorable mentions. We'll just run through these, and then as I'm saying them, you're going to be seeing a lot of the pictures that Luke helped me get right here for the show. Our first honorable mention is quarterback from East Ascension, Antoine Foster. He really made an impact running the football, 16 carries for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns, and a 45-28 win over Walker. And this year, East Ascension has had a gauntlet of a schedule. They played probably the toughest high school football schedule in the state. Everybody that they played, you can probably name them off, and they played. And so I think that tough competition has really helped them at this point in the season when we get to district play. Antoine Foster, congratulations on a good performance there. David Kinsey, that's a familiar name on this list as an honorable mention. He's a speedster for Archbishop Shaw. 22 carries, 219 yards, and 2 touchdowns in a 38-14 win over Bell Chase. Keep in mind, these weren't good enough to be in the top 15. It just shows you how this list is loaded. So moving down the list, Slidell's having a great year. They only have 1 loss this year. And it's because of their play of the quarterback, Luke Guidry. He was 21 of 30 for 311 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 37-20 win over Ponchatoula. Ponchatoula made the Class 5A state championship last year and came just short against Zachary. So that's a good team that they beat. The Carry-On Sampson from Avoyles High School, he was our Player of the Week last week. The rule is for the Player of the Week, we can rank you as high as you can, but if you won Player of the Week earlier this year, you cannot win it again. So make sure we get every person an opportunity to win it at least once. The Carry-On Sampson, he had 7 touchdowns last week on 12 touches. So that's why he was our Player of the Week last week. But he's on our honorable mentions again. So it wasn't a fluke performance. He backed it up. 14 carries, 127 yards, 3 touchdowns, had 2 catches. Both of them went for touchdowns and for 135 yards. So it wasn't a 7 touchdown performance, but it was a 5 touchdown performance.
Yeah, I mean, talk about 4 rushes. I mean, 2 touchdowns on that, and then you got another 2 touchdowns in the air. I mean, or 3 rushing touchdowns. Sorry about that, but 5 touchdowns on only 17, 18 carries. I mean,
that's 7. That's if you count, that's 12 touchdowns the last 2 weeks.
Wow,
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no kidding about that one.
Devon Gajewski, he was actually a player that was submitted earlier this year by Beatman Charter. He's a running back. It's been kind of the year of the running back this year. With all these great quarterbacks, it's been about running the football.
Yes,
12 carries, 159 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and a 32-8 win over Baton. Laurelville High School running back Evan Simon had 22 carries, 150 yards, and had 2 receptions as well for 43 yards. Had 4 total touchdowns, and Franklin's win, 46-20, was the final score. Luke Landry is a quarterback for Catholic High New Iberia, was 12 of 17 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Panthers' 30-0 win over Delcombe. Country Days had a couple players on this list, including one that you're about to hear in the top 15. But Jack Swing is a running back for Country Day, had 16 carries, 151 yards, and a touchdown. And also a catch for 47-yard touchdown and a 51-7 win over Willow. Clayton Gaiman from Country Day as well as a tight end, had 4 catches for 51 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win over Willow High School. Moving on, I have a couple more names as honorable mentions. Jermani Davis from Cecilia. He's a guy that's always been in the honorable mentions list too for Cecilia High School. Completed a pass for 29 yards and had 3 carries for 41 yards. Also had some receptions. That's not what you usually see from a quarterback. But had 3 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown in a 48-7 win over Beauchene. Bonneville wide receiver Julian Price Jr., he was definitely the go-to target for Bonneville. He had 6 catches, 121 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Dwayne Winfield for Letcher. He's a dual-threat quarterback. He has over 1,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing to this point of the season. So he can do it both and do it really well. This time it was about him running the ball because he had 30 carries, 231 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's a quarterback. That's like running back numbers, but he carried the load for the Letcher Bulldogs.
Yes, he did.
And then he had a couple passes here and there, 3 for 6 for 41 yards and a touchdown. But he usually throws the ball more than that. But I guess when you run the football as much success as he was that night, just rely on the legs that night for Winfield. DeAntoine Hopkins from Union Parish. His only stat line is kind of like a mic drop for a stat line. 103 yards.
Wow.
Interception return for a touchdown.
Okay.
I think just that play. Yeah, I mean, that's good enough to get you mentioned right there.
Oh, yeah, 103 yards. I mean, going all the way, can't ask for more.
And then 3 more players to wrap it up for honorable mentions, all of them from Lafayette High School. Grayson Saunier is a very good senior quarterback for Lafayette High School. He was 6 for 11 for 139 yards, a touchdown pass, and a rushing touchdown. And then his top receiver is Kamori Boyd, who had a couple catches for a touchdown for Lafayette High School. And then Jason Arsenault, 16 carries for 110 yards and 1 touchdown. But there's a 4th player from Lafayette that's going to be in the top 15.
Right.
But those are your honorable mentions. Those are good performances, but it shows you how deep these lists really are, considering that they're not top 15. But it shows you how deep it really is and what kind of players there are in Louisiana. And that's why we've done this, just to showcase the talent that's throughout the state.
Sir.
So Tyler, you're going to count us down. So starting from our number 15 all the way up to number 1. So we're going to get her started. These are our top 15 performances of Week 7. It's hard to comprehend that were at the second half of the year.
Yeah.
We're into district play, and I mean, before you even know it, we're going to be sitting in the Superdome watching these football games before you know it.
And it'll be playoffs time soon around, so can't wait. Getting ready for that one because that's going to be some good.
There are a couple more chances for you to get on this list, but time is really running out right now because you have just a couple more weeks left.
Yes.
So take advantage of it. We're going to still continue to do this in the playoffs, but take advantage of it because there's only a couple more weeks left in the season. So Tyler, who is number 15 to start off this list for top 15?
At number 15, we have a Country Day quarterback, McAllister Callio.
So I actually called his football game Episcopal. So I call Episcopal's football games on Friday nights for VSN. And he was actually the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So they played against Episcopal. The starting quarterback was hurt, and he's been the star ever since.
Right.
And he's been pretty good for Country Day. He only had 8 completions, but 5 of them went for touchdowns.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So he only completed 8 passes. 5 of them went for touchdowns, threw for 116 yards on 10 attempts. And they won the game 51-7. So not bad. If you complete 5 for 8 in a game, that's impressive. But he was 5 for 8 as far as touchdown completions. That's pretty incredible.
More than 50% right there.
Yeah, that's more than 50% just on having a touchdown on his connection. So that's very impressive to have that stat line. More touchdowns than really incompletions. Yeah. So he had 10 attempts. Half of them went for touchdowns.
Yep.
That's unbelievable. But he is number 15. That's a good way to start off the list.
That was a great one. Number 14, going back to Lafayette High, we have their running back, Caleb Anderson.
4 players were nominated from Lafayette High School, and here's the kicker: they lost the football game.
Oh, wow.
So it shows you it was a high-scoring football game. They lost 42-41, and a heartbreaker to Sam Houston. Had 22 carries for 301 yards and 3 touchdowns in the loss. So even though the team lost the football game, Caleb Anderson balled out 300-yard rushing performance for Lafayette High School. And Lafayette's having a pretty good season this year under Cedric Figueroa as their head football coach. But Caleb Anderson is number 14.
Nice. I mean, 301 yards. I mean, this is number 14 we're at.
So I know, we're starting the list pretty good.
We still have another 13 names to go
Right,
through, so
right.
we got a pretty good list this week. Number 13, we have North Central quarterback Craig Malvo. Familiar name?
Yeah.
From last week, I think, over the week prior.
Yeah, so North Central it's been a rough go the last couple of years. They've actually had like the longest losing streak in the state for a while, but they got their first win this year, earlier this season. So the streak is snapped,
there you go.
and that's something to build on. Now, unfortunately for North Central, for Craig Malvo, this came in a loss too, but he gave his team a chance, which is all you can ask for. And these are individual performances too. So losses aren't really reflected on how they actually did in the football game. But Craig Malvo threw the ball 47 times. He completed 27 of them for 353 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also had a 1 rushing touchdown as well and 63 yards rushing. So he had 5 touchdowns, but they still lost the football game 35-32 to Westminster Christian. But huge passing performance for Craig Malvo. And congratulations on a great game. And I know, like I said, it came in a losing effort, but he was incredible in it.
Yeah, no kidding about it. I mean, talk about putting up 5 touchdowns and, all the points for your team pretty much. And you still get the loss. I mean, that's tough. But, I mean, can't ask for more out of your quarterback, honestly. Put up 5 touchdowns.
We go to our next player, and we've talked a lot about offense, but we have a defensive player on the other side of the football.
Finally a
defensive guy.
At number 12 from John Ehret High School, we have linebacker Jersey Brown.
That's a good name for a player.
Jersey Brown, yeah.
First name.
I like it.
Yeah, Jersey Brown.
Yeah.
It's a little different, but I think he was born to play football. I mean, a first name like that. Now he had 9 tackles, and John Ehret's really known for their linebackers. They've had a lot of great linebackers over the years, and he's just another one in a long list of really good linebackers for John Ehret. 9 tackles, 4.5 sacks. So the quarterback did not like to see a lot of Jersey Brown that night because he got to him and sacked him 4.5 times in an 18-14 win over West Jefferson.
All right, good one for them.
Yeah, it really
Real
is.
defensive battle right there, 18-14.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have any answer for Jersey Brown.
Yeah,
So
no kidding.
how about try to get a jersey on Jersey Brown? Like, try to block them.
Yeah,
I mean,
no kidding. I like that one right there. Going back to Plaquemine High School, we have quarterback Mike Mitchell.
Mike Mitchell, I was actually having a conversation with Justin about that, and he's shaking his head because he knows his Broadmoor Bucks are about to play Plaquemine, and unfortunately, it might be a rough go because Plaquemine is undefeated right now. They have not lost a game, and Mike Mitchell has been playing really good in Dre Trosclair's system. Now, he was only 10 for 21 throwing the ball. But when you throw 3 touchdowns off those 10 completions, you have 216 yards passing. And then running the ball is what he really did. 16 carries for 152 yards and 4 touchdowns. When Coach Trosclair texted me, like, Jason is the guy that we want to nominate, he said, by the way, that's 368 total yards and 7 touchdowns in 3 quarters.
Oh,
So
wow.
he did it in 3 quarters. He didn't even need another quarter. And unfortunately, I'm going to give a shout out to Luke here as well. It was against his Bel Air Bengals. So it was a 60-0 win over Bel Air in that football game. And Plaquemine is on a roll right now.
Yeah, they're no team to be messing with right now, especially undefeated and coming off a 60-0 win over Bel Air. I mean, Justin, I understand now. Now I know why. You're thinking, getting this game over. It's like that's a team over there, and they got some players over there. So I understand your problems. I do.
Yeah, and the stars align. It looks like that West Louisiana, they're undefeated. Plaquemine's undefeated, and if they go 9-0, that's the last regular season game of the year, and that could be for a district championship. And who knows, maybe the #1 seed in the playoffs for their classifications. The stars align for potentially a really good football game in the last week of the regular season.
Yep.
So congratulations, Mike Mitchell, on a great performance for the Plaquemine Green Devils. Yeah, you don't really hear that. Green Devils, you don't usually affiliate Devils with being red. You got the Blue Devils with Duke. But yeah, they're
different.
Just pick any color, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, don't call them Green Devils, just pick any color. Don't call them the Purple Devils, like, who knows. But yeah, we'll go into our next player. We'll go actually into our top 10.
Yeah, finally get into that top 10. At number 10, we have Beaubridge quarterback Kelby Hypolite. Sorry about that.
Yep, Kelby from Beaubridge High School is a quarterback, and Zach McCard is the head coach for Beaubridge, and Kelby Hypolite had 4 touchdowns, 459 total yards, and they won the football game over Kinder's a good football team, a good football program that's been in the Dome a couple of times, and he had 4 touchdowns, 459 total yards, ran for 270 yards. That's where he did his damage, was on the ground game. 3 rushing touchdowns, had a long of 85 yards. Coach LeCar gave me a whole paragraph for his stat line. 16 yard average per run. So he was 13 of 21 passing for 165 yards and a touchdown. So 49 points scored on the scoreboard, and a lot of it has. What's up with the deal with these running quarterbacks? We've seen.
I kind of forgot
Mike Mitchell,
quarterback.
Yeah, right.
You said
Mike Mitchell had 4 rushing touchdowns. He had 270 yards rushing, and then we go back earlier to Winfield from Letcher. He had over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
It's all about the dual quarterbacks these days. Dual threat. I mean, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. I mean, if you can't do both, I mean, you gotta be able to do one at least, and they can do it all, and it shows. It really does. Because 260 yards out of a quarterback on the ground.
Just keep running.
Impressive.
Like, why even throw it?
Why even throw the ball at the quarterback? I mean, you might as well just hike it to him, and just let him do his thing.
Just let him do his thing.
These guys, you might as well.
We go into number 9, and number 9 has some interesting circumstances right here.
At number 9, we have St. John's School running back Michael Patrick Edwards.
St. John High School has becoming the Plaquemine show because they were in Plaquemine too. It is really just a couple miles from Plaquemine High School. But Michael Edwards, an interesting tidbit about him is that this was his first ever game. And Coach Minton texted me this. First ever game playing running back. It's like, you're playing running back this week. Okay, all right. What do you want me to do? Just get the football and run. Like, all right. He's pretty good at that. He had 22 carries for 222 yards and 3 touchdowns. First time ever playing running back. and a 39-7 win over Ascension Christian. Also had a tackle and 2 pass breakups on defense. I think Coach Minnick's going to keep him at running back after this week.
I think so too. I mean, after a performance like that, his first game, I mean, I'm not sure if a running back went down or, kind of just wanted to switch things up, but, I mean, I guess next man up, if you got that, if you're called onto the spot, I mean, you better show up.
Oh, he did.
He showed up, definitely.
Number 8, we go back to Avoyelles High School.
Yes, at number 8, we have Avoyelles running back / safety Josh Williams.
So this is interesting about Avoyelles. And if you've never seen Avoyelles play football, they probably have the most unconventional way of playing football. Mm-hmm. They do not punt.
Oh, yeah.
They will not. They just refuse not to punt in a football game. They go for on every 4th down. They onside kick it. If they're up to Avoyelles, their defense won't touch the field. They want their defense not to touch the field.
Yeah.
They go because they want the football the entire football game. And that's a good way to win football games when you keep the ball the entire game. But their running back, Josh Williams, had 13 carries, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 2-point conversions, too.
Right.
So he accounted for, I'm not great at math, but 24 points of the 58 points they've scored. A 58-0 win over Holy Savior Menard. And that double wing offense that Royals runs, they have like 4 different running backs, 4 or 5. Yeah. One of them was a player of the week last week. This guy's number 8. And they have a 250-pound running back that they can run the football with, too. Last year, they ran for 7,000 yards. They ran for 7,000 yards as a team.
Oh, I was not expecting that.
And they're actually going to run for 8,000. They're on pace for 8,000 this year. So, yeah, I expect a lot of running the football from Avoyelles High School.
That's a heavy run offense right there. I mean, when you got 3 running backs like that, I mean, you might as well just hand the ball.
Yeah, just give them the ball. And they got big offensive line, and just like it's old-fashioned rugby football. That's what it really is. The way they run that offense.
Yeah, no kidding.
But how about that transition from running the football to the passing game? We go to number 7.
Yeah, number 7 we have Woodlawn High School in Shreveport, wide receiver Josh Dobson.
Yeah, not to be confused with Woodlawn and Baton Rouge. There's another Woodlawn High School out there in Louisiana. There's a Woodlawn in Shreveport. So he is number 7 as a wide receiver, Josh Dodson, and that's not to be confused with Josh Doxson, who played receiver for TCU and was with the Redskins. But this is Josh Dodson. He had 4 catches, 195 yards, and 3 of those 4 catches went for touchdowns. He had a 78-yard touchdown, had a 73-yard touchdown, had a 37-yard touchdown. They still lost the football game to Huntington, but wow, I mean, when you have 4 touches of the ball, you score 3 of them. You're definitely going to be in our top 10 after that.
I mean, especially the way he did it too. 78 yards, 73, and then 37. I mean, pretty good game right there. I mean,
why didn't they throw it to him more?
I know. When you only get the ball 4 times and you do that with it, I mean, you're going to make the list.
Oh, yeah. And he just outside our top 5. And we have one more that's just outside our top 5. Who is that?
At number 6, we have Rain High School wide receiver Kylan Wheeler.
Kylan Wheeler scored 5 touchdowns in 3 different ways. He had 13 carries, 129 yards, and a touchdown. Also had 7 catches for 136 yards and 2 more touchdowns. Had 165 kick return yards and 2 more touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
So he scored 2 touchdowns on kickoff returns, scored 2 touchdowns off catches, and a touchdown running the ball. Did a little bit of everything. It's like Mr. Taysom Hill over there for Rain High School. He was really their offense for the Wolves.
I mean, lined him up at wide receiver, lined him at running back. I mean, threw him back at kick return. I mean, what can't this dude do? I mean, you might as well throw him on defense if he didn't play. I don't know.
He hands out the waters. He drops the bluffs to get there.
He does it all. I mean,
he calls plays. Does a little play-by-play on the sideline. But he does a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Top 5, Tyler.
Yeah.
We're rolling through it.
So
we go into our top 5 performances of Week 7. And why not start off with a quarterback?
Yeah, quarterback Carson Orgeron from South Lafourche High School.
Yep, it is South Lafourche. It is Carson Orgeron. So y'all may be wondering, is there any relation? No, there's not. There's not relation. But there's a lot of Orgerons in South Lafourche. It just happens not to be related to Ed Orgeron, the former LSU head football coach. But Carson Orgeron, like Ed, can play football and knows football.
Yeah.
Because he was completed 13 of 18, 72% of his passes for 326 yards, threw 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, yeah, these quarterbacks can throw the ball. We've seen a lot of running quarterbacks. 12 carries for 94 yards and 2 more touchdowns. So, overall, 420 yards and 7 total touchdowns in a 59-24 win over Morgan City.
Couple game right there, 7 touchdowns. I mean, can't ask for more from the quarterback right there.
No, you
Great
can't.
game.
Yeah, he did really good.
Yeah.
If you have a last name Orgeron, and you're probably going to be pretty good at
You're probably
football.
going to be a pretty good football
You're probably
player.
pretty good at football, or at least coach football. Somewhat involved with it.
Yeah.
If you have that last name. Number 4, I'm thinking about renaming his name, like Gridiron Football Player of the Week after this guy's name.
Yes.
We've heard his name before, Tyler, but let's just go ahead and give him
Just
that
get
now.
into it. At number 4, we have De La Salle running back P.J. Martin.
I feel like this is like every week we call his name.
Every now and then we say P.J. Martin.
P.J. Martin.
He's a dog. And he's a really good running back over there at De La Salle.
Well, if you saw Montrell Johnson, I mentioned probably this 15,000 times. 4 touchdown against LSU early in that football game. He's from De La Salle.
Yeah,
He played,
great touchdown.
he played football at De La Salle High School in New Orleans, and they're known for running the football and a big offensive line. They have a big offensive line up front. 18 carries, 273 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also had 4 kickoff returns for 126 yards and another touchdown. All-purpose yards, that's 400 total yards and 5 touchdowns. So, yeah, P.J. Martin was, I think, a little sore after that one. He went for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I think he's pretty sore after that one.
He's a pretty good player, too. I mean, I've heard this name a couple times on this, and, he's always putting up a big performance. I mean, talk about 270-something yards. I mean, another 100 in the air. I mean, 400 yards in the game. I mean, can't ask for more from the kid. You really can't.
Unfortunately, we don't have King Campese on this list. I know all these fullback fans who've been on the list every single week. I know Will's shaking his head. I know that's been the favorite for him. It's been the fullback. But, unfortunately, he's not on this list this week. But P.J. Martin, he's also been on this week a lot. We can actually rename this list probably in his honor because he's on it every single week. But we go into our top 3. So these are our top 3 performances of a week 7.
And going back to the running back position, we have Oakdale running back Cedric Allison.
Oakdale High School at number 3. So why is he number 3? At 18 carries, 350 yards rushing on 18 carries and 3 touchdowns. And I'm not done yet. He also had a 75-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So, let's say 420 yards of offense, and he touched the ball like 19 times. So
pretty impressive.
64-30 win over Mamou is the victory for Oakdale High School. They're actually on the other side of it with their player of the week. Last week, they're Carry-On Sampson. That's what they played. Oh, wow. So now they're on the other side. We got a player, too, that can perform. Yes, and it was the running back, Cedric Allison, who is number 3. Yeah. We go into our top 2.
Yes. At number 2, we have Rose Pine running back Grant Ducote.
Andy Bryson is fist pumping right now because his Rose Pine Eagles, they're represent Grant Ducote. And Grant Ducote is the all-time leading rusher for the Rose Pine Eagles. This is like, he's number 2 this week, but this is like a normal everyday performance for him.
Yeah,
like
he's always on this list, and he's always got a great performance.
He's been really close. I think Grant Ducote is going to end up getting Player of the Week one of these weeks.
Yeah, it was really close this week.
Yeah, he was our number 2 player, and why is he number 2? He had 8 carries for 227 yards and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 30 yards a carry, like 29 yards a carry. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I think even against the wind, you probably against air, you probably run left for that.
You might trip yourself.
Right. But he had 29 yards per carry. He only had 8 carries too. So after those 8 carries, you're done. Yeah. This was at halftime. Imagine if he had played the whole game. Yeah. This was off the first half.
He even had 16 carries, times that by 2.
Yeah, 500 yards.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many yards he had, but he's gonna have a pretty good game.
227. I think Huddle also said 231. Like whatever way, it's that 230-yard mark. 3 touchdowns. So he was 3 for 8, like running for a touchdown.
Yeah.
that's pretty high percentage for a running back. But Grant Cody, you're going to get there. Just keep on putting up the numbers, and trust me, Andy Bryson's waiting for his Rose Pine Eagles to represent number 1. He's wanting it so bad, but unfortunately, there's just one other player that we had to put in our top performer of Week 7. Before you give out the name, let's just give a position breakdown. I said it earlier before the show. Yeah. We had a freshman running back from St. Edmund, our Week 1 player of the week. We had a junior running back from Ouachita, Cardell Sermons, at Week 2. We had an Oak Grove quarterback, Jackson Bradley, in Week 3. And like the biggest name on this list so far this year is Omarion Miller from North Caddo. He was once committed to LSU. He's committed to Nebraska. And depending on that situation, I mean, he's committed to Nebraska right now, and we'll see where that goes. But Omarion Miller, he was our player of the week in Week 4, and then Week 5 it was Gray Walters, quarterback for Benton High School. He threw 8 touchdowns in that game. That's why he was number 1. And then last week was Carrion Sampson. So that's good to get a lot of offensive players, right? Yeah. A lot of offensive players.
And it's a good mix, too. You got the quarterbacks, the running backs, even had a wide receiver in there. Great mix of offense. But this week we got a little bit of
it's a little different.
Bit of spin.
A little spin.
Yeah, a little twist on things.
Twist on player of the week for Week 7. It's good to have quarterbacks. It's good to have running backs. It's good to have receivers. Yeah. But there's a twist for number 1.
At number 1, we have Dutchtown defensive tackle Diego Spears.
You heard that right. Defensive tackle. Yeah, you heard that one right. Yes. Make sure you kind of get the Q-tips and clean your ears a little bit. But that is what you heard. A defensive tackle takes her number 1 spot. Diego Spears. This is a defensive tackle. Keep in mind, not a defensive end. No. That's on the outside. This is a guy that's on the inside. 12 tackles from the inside. 4 tackles for loss. 2 sacks. 1 forced fumble, 1 pass breakup, and was just all over the stat sheet, and a 28-0 win over Live Oak. We want to give the defensive guys a shout out because it's all about the quarterbacks, the running backs, the receivers. But if you get it done on the defensive side, and this, I mean, and you also forced a fumble that actually led to a touchdown. So this guy was unblockable. So if you're unblockable, that's just as good as running for 5 or 6 touchdowns, and he was unblockable. They actually shut out Live Oak 28-0, and he actually helped his team score a touchdown. He scored more points probably himself than Live Oak did. So it shows you why he is our number 1 player of the week. And it was really, we had it by vote, and it was a consensus. It was Will said, that was go with Diego Spears. You said let's go with the defensive tackle. Andy was the one that said let's go with the defensive tackle. So like, if y'all say that, I'll let y'all have it.
We gotta go with it.
Diego Spears, man, congratulations on being our Week 7 Gridiron Football Player of the Week, and I appreciate Coach Guy Mastretta too for sending in that nomination as well. Appreciate Coach Mastretta, and we're gonna set up an interview with Coach Mastretta and Diego Spears on that big award. So first time this year we have a defensive player. Finally.
The defense gets some love, man.
It's not just the offense, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, it always starts on the offense, but the defense. Defense wins. Defense wins games.
Defense championships. Yeah.
I mean, that's a known quote. Fact. So. It's awesome to see the defense, especially a defensive tackle.
Too. Yeah, that's good. That's
tackle
good.
Getting some love over there. The big boys.
I love it. I really do. I love it. It really shows that we can mix things up right here for the player of the week. It's not just about the quarterbacks and the running backs. If you make an impact, you'd be on this list. So congratulations, Diego. Any final thoughts, Tyler, on do you think we got it right with this list?
I think we nailed the list, especially at number 1. The defense is finally getting some love. I mean, P.J. Martin did his thing. He's always going to be on this list probably.
Grant Cody and P.J. Martin, they're going to be on this list. They just consistently come in, week out. The only problem is they do it on the wrong weeks because there's always a performance from somewhere else that just tops them.
Yes,
so appreciate Luke, appreciate Will for as well putting the highlights and the pictures in that you've seen throughout the video. And then great to see a live audience here.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at them right now. It's very eerie. We used to just looking at the window, the door right in front of us. But we have a pretty good crowd for us right here as well. So appreciate Justin and Mike, and we also have an anonymous source as well as our third. I'm just going to say, but we had a great show here today. And it was great to have this with you, Tyler. You're doing a great job with us for Gridiron football. And like I said, Luke and Will, they're doing a great job as well. Catch up what they're doing throughout the week. They put up articles throughout the week for Gridiron football. And we're going to be doing a lot of Diamond in the Roughs, more of that as we go through the season. And then Friday nights, all these guys have game recaps too. One about what Bel Air does, one about what Scotlandville does. And Scotlandville had a tough challenge against pretty much like the mainstay in 5A, Zachary. They played really hard against Zachary, but that's a tough team to go and try to win.
I feel like that's the team to beat right now.
That is a team to beat, really. Like if you're either Zachary and the Catholic High, I mean, those are really like the top teams that you have to beat. Yeah. And it just came short. Now, Scotlandville, you got to give credit to them. They battled and they made it closer than what the score. Right there, they almost made a comeback at the end. And you can actually check out these game recaps that they did, what you did as well, which was an outstanding game. I saw all the plays you put up on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't stop. I mean, I was
sure
trying to record everything.
Yeah, another one happened.
Yeah, it started right in the first. I mean, the jump of the game. I mean, Tyler Johnson finds David Jones for 80-yard bomb, and he was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and it started from there, and I just couldn't keep up with him, man. I was just trying to send it, and this happened. It was a great game to go to. It was one of the best games I've actually seen.
Yeah, so keep track of what they're doing for Gridiron football. And I also just recently wrote an LSU recap on LSU defeating Florida, which was really a big win for LSU at this stage. It really was just really to turn around the season, but not only that, but you could see a lot of the problems that plagued LSU early on in the season were fixed, and actually they built on that. So a lot of issues are cleaned up, and you can see at this point in the season, LSU's really hitting their stride right now.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, going back to the conversation you and Marcus had last week, just talking about Jaden Daniels, specifically, and about his performance. And I mean, I think he really stepped up this week. I mean, I think we saw him, stay in that pocket a little bit, kind of longer. And those plays, where might have seen, he was trying to extend the play with his feet and maybe made the decision too quick to kind of just roll out. But I feel like this week he kind of,
Trust receivers.
Yeah, he trusts his receivers. And I think that's what, not only the receivers were asking, but also I feel like LSU fans are kind of, trying to get that, from that quarterback, because it's all about the deep ball now,
Yeah. Got all these receivers.
Yeah.
You got Keyshawn Butte, you got Jeray Jenkins, you got Brian Thomas. I mean, Malik Neighbors, go on and on.
There's too many weapons on this team.
Give them a chance. And that's what Jaden Daniels did. And you saw what this offense potentially could be if they get clicking, and they did against Florida. So check out that game recap I put up there. Also, I'm going to put up takeaways from that game since we really got a chance to really dissect it. So I'm actually going to put that up as well. And then later in the week, we'll have LSU Ole Miss coming up. So we'll talk a lot about LSU Ole Miss. Of course, myself and Marcus will talk about it tomorrow on the Chase with Jace, and it should be a great show there as well. Tyler, anything else you want to add, or before we wrap it up? That's pretty much about it.
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, got a couple things coming out this week. Obviously, I think actually for the first time for my coach's corner, I think I'm gonna try to get the legendary head coach Landry Williams. Yes.
Okay.
I've been trying little things new, trying to get like the assistant coaches.
Yeah, Ross has been on there.
Yeah, Coach Ross, Coach Anthony Jones. Thank them for being on the show. But I'm gonna try to get Coach Landry on the show, kind of mix things up, and try to get us a little something new and talk about this great UI performance.
Yeah, Luke. I know Luke's been catching up with Byron Wade every single week, and he's done his coaching corners, and he's done a good job with that. And then Will with Coach Ryan Cook, so catch those out as well. Appreciate y'all guys watching, and then keep in mind Week 8. Please send your submission for next week for Week 8. The deadline is on Sunday at 6:00 p.m. So if you get an email from me, you're gonna get an email, you're gonna get a text. There's no excuse to avoid me. I'm gonna be right in your face every single day about it. So make sure you send your nomination if you have a player that you feel like is deserving for being the player of the week. So it was fun. First time we got to see a defensive player as our player of the week. We got a studio audience in front of us as well for the first time. So it was great. It was really fun. And until next week, appreciate y'all watching, and please share it. We are on Facebook, we're on YouTube, so make sure to promote the show. I mean, this is all about the kids, and this is what it's really all about, is promote them and what they do every single week and every single Friday night. But for Tyler Barrows, our interns Luke and Will, and then for everybody, Justin and Mike, and anonymous third person we're not going to mention about. I'm Chase Lejeune from Gridiron Football, saying have yourself a good week. Enjoy your football weekend, and we'll see y'all next week for Gridiron Football Week 8 Player of the Week. Hope you enjoyed the Player of the Week show. That was for week number 7, and like I said at the end of the show, for the Player of the Week show, all the high school coaches, if you have a player that you want to nominate for Gridiron Football Player of the Week, well, make sure to send your submission. We'll make sure to mention everybody that has been submitted throughout the entire week, and we reward them not only being on the website, not only having their picture on the front of the website, not only showing their highlights, but we also interview them too. And that's what you're about to catch right here. Coming up next is I interview defensive lineman Diego Spears. That's right, the player of the week was a defensive lineman from Dutchtown High School. Definitely going away from the course a little bit, as has usually been a quarterback and offensive award. Quarterback, receivers, running backs. No skilled players get the award, but we want to recognize the other side of football too. And it was just a matter of time before we award a defensive player for Player of the Week. And this one was just too hard to ignore. It really was. From a defensive tackle with the stat line that he had for a team that's one of the best defenses in the Baton Rouge area right now, the Dutchtown Griffins, and that's what you're about to see right here as I interviewed Diego Spears along with the defensive coordinator right after back-to-back straight shutout victories in our last couple of games, come off a 4-game winning streak, and they're riding high in this final 3-game stretch as the Griffins are trying to compete and contend for a district championship. Check out my interview with Dutchtown High School junior defensive lineman Diego Spears, along with his DC. Check it out. That it's usually been offensive type of award. It's usually it goes to like quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. That's all good and all. But it's great that we actually get a defensive player to finally represent the defensive side of the football. And Diego, I'm proud to let you know that you are a Gridiron Football Week 7 Player of the Week for the whole state of Louisiana. So you were the top guy this week, and Diego, congratulations to you, man, for thank you had last week.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem, man. And Coach, I know that you are the defensive coordinator for the squad, for the Dutchtown Griffins, and it's always great when you can look at the scoreboard and say that your defense pitched a shutout this past Live Oak. So, how big of a performance and impact that Diego had in that role in shutting out the Live Oak Eagles this past Friday?
It's absolutely important. They like to pass the football a lot, run a little bit of zone scheme. So he was isolated one-on-one with that center a good bit. And we pride ourselves in the whole defense really of winning one-on-one matchups. If we can get one-on-one matchups, we got to win them, especially on a pass rush. Diego took full advantage of his pass rush moves and getting off the ball, getting extension, and lived in the backfield all night. Created havoc not only in the pass game, but we get a little bit of vertical movement on the zone and just cut off angles.
So, Coach Harrell, I believe it makes it easier when you have guys like Diego for you to help call defense. It just makes everything easier.
Absolutely.
And Diego, talking about your performance as well, I can go off the stat line and say like the reason we chose you as our player of the week. But he had 12 tackles, 4 TFLs, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass breakup. And I think the forced fumble was a touchdown, right, for y'all? Or at least to a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So you actually help your team put points on the scoreboard. So what was that performance like this past Friday for you? How would you grade how you did this past Friday?
I definitely think it's one of my better games of the season. And it's really just like the guys around me that I can trust that they'll do their job if I do my job. And it just makes it a lot easier to play the game. And I think it was just, if I could beat them one-on-one, then I'm going to do it all night.
You did. I don't think any of the offensive linemen for Live Oak didn't want to block you that night. That's for sure. And it shows in the numbers. But and that's even more incredible, too, because it's not like you're coming from the defensive end spot or like an outside linebacker spot putting those numbers. You're in the middle of the defense. You're usually getting the double teams and you're getting the dirty work, really. The clear other players in order to get those numbers. But you're the one that posted those numbers this past Friday. So what does this mean to you, knowing that there were guys, there were over 30 players that coaches submitted for Player of the Week, and a lot of them, like a running back, had a 400-yard performance. There was another offensive player that had 7 touchdown passes. You're actually over those guys. So what does that mean representing the defensive side of the football, knowing that as good a defensive player now and then should be recognized for Player of the Week like you?
I mean, it's amazing. Like having me put over those type of guys, it just feels great to know that I'm being recognized. It's so cool.
And Coach, just really not only it was Diego, but it was a team effort. I mean, that's what it really is when you shut out opposing offense. I know Dixon Ague is a really good linebacker for y'all. Y'all got a lot of really good defensive players on that side of the football. Who are some other standout performances in that shutout victory?
I mean, it's just, like you said, it's a team effort. We've got an unbelievable group of kids. We got, we brand ourselves as TKO, taking the ball away and getting knockouts. We play a physical brand of football, and it starts from Diego at the nose to, our safeties. A.K. Burrell's a big name right now. He's picking up some leverage with some university coverage. Carter Hanbury, who's a 2-year starter, plays our outside. It's our nickel. We call it a jack. 1 through 11, I know that sounds cliche, but we don't have a whole lot of weaknesses on our defense. And that's a credit to the kids. They've been working hard. We changed up our whole defensive philosophy as far as schematically speaking. We've always been an even front, 4-2-5, and this year we went to an odd front, playing a lot of games and getting into an even front from an odd personnel. And the kids have picked it up and love it and are running with it. And I think that's helping us just be multiple. And it creates a little bit of, getting back at those offensive coordinators. They like the formation you to death, and you lose your weekend having to prepare for it all. We get to replay that favor and show them a bunch of different looks on defense. So,
well, y'all show up every Friday night. I'm just looking at the schedule that y'all had this year, and it's like, even in the losses this year, you only gave up about 13 points, 10 points. Pitched back-to-back shutouts. Anytime you can shut out Live Oak and Walker, back-to-back weeks. Talk about, Diego, first, the confidence for y'all, for the 11 guys on that defensive side of the football, knowing that it's going to be a long night every time we're going to step on the football field when we play against y'all.
Yeah, we just have an amazing group of guys. We're all physical, like Coach said, just the TKO brand. We're going to take your head off if we can when we play the game. We just love the game of football, and it's just fun to go shut somebody out 2 games in a row. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll take pride in that, throughout the entire game. Let's make sure we get this shutout, and y'all are able to do that. That's not easy to do when you're playing at 5A against the best of the best competition, and y'all are able to do that 2 weeks in a row. And defensively, as I said before, when we looked at your numbers, it's one thing when you have a lot of tackles, you have 2 sacks, you have 4 TFLs, but there's a saying goes that good players, they get the sacks and everything, but the great players
they force turnovers, and you force a turnover to this past Friday. And Coach, what does it mean to have players that can make the plays, but also have the presence of mind to take the football away and not just make a negative play in the backfield like Diego did?
Right. I mean, it's super important. We preach it. We work it. We work a turnover circuit every week. In my opinion, I mean, probably Dave can attest to this. We preach that we haven't taken the ball away enough this year, actually. But I think a part of that is the way people play us. You know we have a pretty good defense. So they attack us with short hit and pass. They don't spend a whole lot of time in the pocket. So we don't get a lot of time to get to like tackle with a strip sack. We have had some takeaways, but we always obviously greedy. We want more. But the first play of the game is when it happened. First play of the game, we set the safety blitz, created the quarterback stepped up into the pocket. Diego beat his guy, kind of raked the football out as he formed tackle. Ball is up on the 2. There you go. Sets the tone for the rest of the game, you know.
Yeah, it definitely sets a tone. That's a tone-setting play for the rest of the football game. Diego, if you had to grade your performance this past Friday, what grade would you give yourself on your performance? If you had to be the teacher and you had to grade yourself, what grade would you give yourself?
Definitely like an A- because I did make a lot of big plays, but I also missed a lot more that I could have made the game just that much more easier. Definitely missed a couple of tackles, so that's something that I need to start working on more. But I still think I had a pretty good game. Just need to work on that form tackle a little bit more.
There's always something you have to strive for in order to get better. And as a player, what do you think is the biggest strength to your game? Is it rushing the passer, playing against the run? In your opinion, as a defensive lineman, as an interior defensive lineman, what do you have to say is the strength?
Definitely those one-on-ones. Me personally, I just don't think anybody can beat me on a one-on-one, especially if I know I can beat you. I'm coming after you all night. So I definitely think that's one of my strongest when I get those one-on-one pass rushes.
You got a favorite move that you like to do on the offensive line? Is it like the bull rush or the spin move or the swim, anything like that you is your go-to?
Definitely swipe their hands away and then rip through.
Rip through?
That's my favorite one because they just get shocked. They don't know what happened. You just pass them.
Yeah, they just don't like, how can I block that? You know, like you just gotta throw your hands up in the air and say, oh well. But Coach, moving forward, I mean the team is really confident right now. I believe y'all on a winning streak. I won 4 straight games right now, and y'all play in a very tough district. And I know this Friday there's just this rivalry game this Friday that I don't think anybody really cares about, right? Against Sam Mall. That's always a big rivalry between those two proud programs and proud schools. But moving forward, I know your defense has been pitching shutouts, but what do you think is that next step? Is it, like we mentioned earlier, to create more turnovers as far as the next step for an already a really good defense that y'all have?
Well, I think it's going to be being able to be multifaceted, right? Santa Maria does a really good job. Been telling the guys all week, like it's a different type of offense. They run the read and shoot, so they can put us on islands and they can read us. That takes away some of the ways that we like to be aggressive, you know. So it's going to create us having to play a little bit type of different game, where we just got to win the one-on-one battles in the trenches against the run, and then when we get red, we have to be disciplined in whatever it is our assignment is, and do our part. That one person within the 11-man scheme. And if we do that, and we have the discipline to do it, it's only going to make us that much better. Yeah, it does change what we like to do to a certain extent, but the more things we have to cover, the more things we have to defend when it comes to week 11, when it matters, the more well-rounded to get going. So the biggest thing right now is just adjusting week to week, and whatever the offense is throwing at us, being able to answer that full fold, whether it be to, pin your ears back and send a bunch of exotic rushes, or to sit a base defense and just attack them and have really good technical defense.
Well, I know this defense is going to get tested because these next couple of district games are going to be really tough. And really, this stretch is going to really determine the district championship for y'all right now. I mean, Sam Mall is obviously they're a battle-tested squad, and they're a scrappy bunch. They've always been a scrappy bunch. under David Oliver. And Dunham Springs is having a really good season this year. East Ascension, besides probably any team in the SEC West, they probably had the toughest schedule
All right.
that what they were able to play. But Diego, how excited are you for you to go through this stretch with this defense, knowing that really the gauntlet is coming up for y'all these next 3 weeks?
Definitely feel like it's going to be a really good test for us. And I'm really excited to have some of our hardest games at the last little stretch of the season to see what we really made of. And then like just really put iron against iron, see who's going to win.
Yeah, it should be great. It should be a really good stretch for y'all. A couple Thursday games too. So that's going to be really testing early games in the week for y'all. But Coach, any final thoughts? This is the reason we did this whole interview was because of Diego and just becoming our first. We've been going through. This is the first year we've really done this at Gridiron football that we had a Player of the Week, and it's been like. It's been like quarterback. We get quarterback here, get a running back here, receiver, quarterback, running back, and then we got the stats this week, and we're like, okay, we got to change it up a little bit. Like we saw Diego's stat line, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have to reward Diego for because that's not normal to have a game like that, especially on the inside when you're having double-digit tackles, double-digit sacks, CFLs, you force a fumble. That's a special performance. What do you have to say overall about Diego and why he is deserving to be our Player of the Week for Gridiron football?
Well, first off, thank you, Jace. Appreciate you guys doing this. It can't be said enough that, like, so many kids in the high school level put so much effort into the game, and anytime anybody gets recognized, it's awesome. So we greatly appreciate you guys doing this. Absolutely, Diego is, he's battle tested. He's been coming through some ups and some downs, and he's starting to see some of that pay off. To have a good game like he did and to be recognized is awesome. Especially, obviously, a defensive guy getting known, tired of these offensive guys getting all these stats. Make defense great again, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
But we do. We appreciate it. And he's obviously well deserving. I'm sure as much other people in the state are, but glad that we get represented here at Dutchtown and had a great candidate to do it.
Oh yeah, he's definitely deserving of it. And Diego, your final thoughts too. Any guys you want to give a shout out to, or any people that you want to give a shout out that helped make that performance so special in your eyes?
Definitely my D-line brothers, Baron Cozy and Braylon, and my middle linebackers and my outside linebackers, Dixon Nagu, Anson and Blake and Carter Hanberry. Definitely some of the guys, and then also AK Burrell. Really just everybody on the field just out there doing their job, and this guys that I can really trust. And I know if I do what I do and they do what they do, close out games like that all season.
Well, I know one thing is for certain. I definitely do not want to play quarterback going against y'all. So that is one thing for certain. And good thing I'm not on the other side of that going against y'all because y'all been playing a really good defense this year. And I definitely want to give y'all credit for the season that y'all having this year.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all guys. Good luck the rest of the season. I know that y'all going to be right there. I mean, it's going to be down to the wire for district, and this next couple of games will help y'all, especially going to the playoffs moving on. So,
absolutely.
Yep.
We appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks a lot, Coach, for stepping in. I know Coach Mistretta was a little busy have a freshman game tonight he had to go see, but I appreciate Coach Mistretta as well for sending a nomination as well. And I appreciate Diego for coming on too, man. Hope that you got surprised by this honor this first time that you heard about it. But we're going to have an article. It's actually going to be on today. It's going to be the whole list of everybody that's been nominated and where they're ranked and all that. And then we have a video. So we'll play your highlights in the video as well. And this interview is going to be tomorrow. So this will be on the show tomorrow. I'll make sure to send it to Coach Mistretta and then y'all as well. But I appreciate y'all guys. Good luck the rest of this week. And, yeah, good luck the rest of the season as well. We're kind of going to that final stretch.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Have yourself a good rest of your week. Appreciate it.
Right.
That was a great change of pace after we've seen a lot of offensive players get the award, and now we get to see a defensive player get it. And it was Diego Spears. It couldn't happen to a finer young man. and his defensive coordinator. I appreciate Coach Harn stepping in. Coach Mistret had to go to a freshman football game for the Dutchtown Griffins and kind of look over that. So I appreciate stepping in and doing the interview with me. Right now, that is a defense that not a lot of teams will want to play right now because they've been really good, really throughout the whole season. But the last couple of weeks, they have been outstanding. One of the best defenses in the last couple of weeks. So congratulations. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a quarterback. It doesn't have to be a running back. It doesn't have to be a receiver. Just perform to your level. And if you put good numbers, great numbers, in fact, at your position group, you can be a defensive lineman, you can be a kicker, you can be a punter, you can be a quarterback. It doesn't matter. If you excel, we're going to recognize you, and that's what we did right there with Diego Spears. How about that? The big defensive lineman becoming our first defensive player to ever win the award. Now we're going to take another commercial break. This is going to be our second commercial break. When we come back, we're going to just wrap the show up and talk about some high school and some college football. But before we wrap up and before we go into commercial break, check out this interview I did. Now, I did a pregame article for this game. It was the Dunham Tigers taking on the Episcopal Knights. As y'all may know, I do announce games for the Episcopal Knights on Varsity Sports Now on Friday nights. And even though I didn't announce the game against Dunham, I covered it for Gridiron football. And I was very impressed with what the Dunham Tigers were able to do in a big district showdown between a really hot Episcopal team coming in. They've won about close to 30 straight games in the regular season against a Dunham team that's looking for revenge. It was a really a hype matchup. A lot of energy, a lot of people showed up for the game, and a great atmosphere. But Dunham, they're just ready to play. And in that type of football game where there was two top 5 teams in their division for the playoffs going against each other for a possible district championship, this is why that this performance was my vote for the top team performance of the week, and that goes to the Dunham Tigers. So congratulations to them. And check out my interview with Coach Neil Weiner as I talked to Coach Weiner about how his team was able to dominate the Episcopal Knights 42-0 in very impressive fashion.
But Coach, glad that you're able to join me on such short notice. But I actually award y'all, the Dunham School, for being the team of the week on that team performance. And that was an incredible performance by y'all against a really good district rival in Episcopal High School. And obviously I cover them a lot for Varsity Sports Now and call all their games. But what y'all are able to do against Episcopal and really punch them in the mouth early on and just keep that tone of the football game throughout 4 quarters, that was very impressive, especially defeating a team like that that's won like 30 straight regular season games and beat them like that 42-0. What a performance it was for this football team. And Coach, just throughout the mood of the week, I don't think anybody was expecting that. I don't think you were even expecting that, but talk about this performance and really how the guys played in a dominating fashion.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a mature veteran group, especially up front in the trenches, and most of the time when the offensive and defensive lines for a team are just going to be, bigger and more mature, you're usually going to have a lot of success. And certainly Episcopal's having an outstanding season. That wasn't their best night, but honestly, when you look at their starting lineup, they're just young. I think on defense, I think they had 7 sophomores. I think they had 4 on offense. And, I think they only had 1 returning starter on the offensive line. That's just not a great recipe going against a veteran group like we had. So they've had a great run in the regular season the last couple of years. They've had some bad matchups and some big playoff games, and have come close to even winning those games, even though they're against, high quality opponents. But we knew what we were capable of doing. We just didn't know how a young Episcopal group would handle it. And like I said, it was just our night.
Was it just really a challenge because you knew the seniors really want this one after the last 2 years? I know y'all came up short against Episcopal, but I know your seniors really wanted it. Was it just, it's good to see that emotion from those guys, but was it really a challenge throughout the week just to kind of manage that a little bit and just translate that into the game more efficiently?
It really wasn't that much of a challenge through the course of the week. I think game day was the only day that we really talked about Dunham Episcopal, you know. Um, we didn't talk about last year's score or the year before that. Like none of that stuff came up. And, you know, on Friday on game day, you get just to get everybody a little fired up. You might do something like that. But as far as preparation goes, you know, that's just not anything that we do on a regular basis. And so we decided we're going to change things up for that particular game.
I know your coordinators, they called an excellent football game on both sides with Coach Leyendecker and Coach Hand. Just what you with those game plans, what you saw during the week from both those coordinators, and how do you think that game plan really was efficient for y'all in order to get a dominant win like it showed on the scoreboard?
Yeah, I mean, I think our guys put in the same effort, intensity, and time every single week coming up with the game plan. Coach Caleb Leyendecker and his defensive staff, Coach Hand and the offensive staff. I think as coaches, they do a fantastic job every week. I think what sets us apart this particular year is our veteran leaders on the team have bought into that same kind of mindset, that it's not just the physical, you know, work that everybody sees on Friday night or Thursday night, in our case last week, but it's that, you know, Sunday through Thursday or Sunday through Friday of mentally preparing. And so, you know, we know Wally, who calls the offense and runs the wing so well at Episcopal. I mean, they're always so difficult to prepare for. Our kids were just excited about the opportunity to show what they could do, and they were really locked in, and it kind of forced Episcopal to kind of get out of what they love to do the most and control the clock and run the football. And so that's a credit to our defensive guys, but also from an offensive standpoint, you know, we just kind of came out clicking, and being able to put them behind early on kind of forced them to get out of what they like to do. So it was both groups working together, I think.
Yeah, it definitely worked together. Anytime you score more than 40 points on the scoreboard, have a shutout too. I mean, that's really both sides of football really working coincidentally. And your quarterback, usually the memo is the saying goes about you go wherever your quarterback takes you. And it seems like that Jackson House was really set the tone for y'all offensively from the very start with how he's able to play. And what do you have to say about Jackson? Because we know he grows up in a football family, and he's been knowing or around football for such a long time. But what do you have to say about what kind of competitor it is, and just to go in that type of game where there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of hoopla around this football game, and for him to perform efficiently like he did?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, you know, early on in the year, it was where as far as his feet would take us. In the last couple of weeks, it's been his arm as well, you know, so that's been good to see. Just as a passer, getting to know his receivers, getting to know our offense, he has really progressed. He had the talent, he had the know-how, but just putting it together with a new group, it just took a couple of weeks, I think, for the passing game to really take off. In the last 3 to 4 weeks, it really has. And then the other part of it is just his leadership ability. He just really does have a will to win that just shows in the way that he prepares, the way that he works out in the weight room, the way that he handles himself in the locker room. I feel like from the moment he stepped foot on our campus, everybody kind of stepped their game up because they recognize the type of focus and intensity that he had with the experience. And he was a state championship quarterback last year in the state of Kansas. And so I think that kind of instantly gave him some street cred, you know, when he came on the campus. And then, yeah, the fact that his dad has been a long time successful coach at a high level, that's another part of it. And so I'm really proud of how he's handled all that. One thing about playing in this particular game, it really didn't mean anything to him from an emotional, historical standpoint. You know, it was just the next game on the schedule for him. And so certainly I think he felt the excitement of everybody did once we got the game today. But for him, it was just another Friday or another Thursday in that case.
And offensively, y'all are able to take advantage of the turnovers that y'all forced defensively on that side of the football. And I know that the defensive line, the defensive front was a big strength of y'all, even the last couple of years. And how much of that role, knowing that Pittsburgh is maybe a little bit undersized on the offensive line, and really with your defensive line with Jake Rizzo and those guys, how did that really affect really at Lewis Ward and an offense which has been really efficient, really make mistakes a lot throughout the football game, really throw their timing off?
Yeah, you don't typically see Episcopal put the ball on the ground or throw interceptions, and yeah, I think that defensive line, Jake Rizzo, Larry McGidry at the ends, Braden Augustus, James Baldwin, Lewis Phillips, Malachi Jackson. I mean, we legitimately have 6 guys that we can rotate up front that are a real tough matchup problem for most Class 2A offensive linemen. And so it's going to force the quarterback to get rid of the ball a little bit faster than maybe receivers are anticipating. And, that can lead to some inaccurate throws. And we were able to pop the ball loose a couple of times when they were scrambling or trying to pick up some extra yards. And so, we're very fortunate in that case.
And y'all were able to run the football. Obviously Jackson can run the football, but the running back combination that y'all have right now, Mason Wild ran like a wild man.
Yeah.
He was definitely running people over, and he was a very physical football player. What do you really like about really the running style of him? I know Colin gets some carries now and then too.
Yeah.
But what'd you like about that running back rotation?
Yeah, the wild man has been great for us this year. He really has. He's just steady. He's not super flashy, but he's always falling forward. He's always going to pick up that last yard that we need. He reads what the offensive line is doing really well and has got great vision, from tackle to tackle. And not a lot of backs have that naturally, and he does. And so he's been a real bright spot for us. Obviously, Colin Bolt physically looks the part. He's tall, he's strong, he's fast. But he goes all out all the time. And so for him to go both ways like that is just not really possible. And so Mason has been the perfect complement to Colin at running back, and it allows Colin to go full speed on defense where we need him the most.
Yeah, I mean, it showed. And Colin, we always knew what kind of defensive player he is, what kind of impact he makes on the defensive side of the football. But this was just one of those games that just whatever went right for y'all. I mean, just defensively forcing turnovers, running the football well. He had a couple explosive plays in the passing game. It was just one of those games where just everything clicked. And before I move on and talk about this game and wrapping up this interview too, who are some other people that you want to give a shout out to just for y'all to have that type of performance?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the offensive line, James Baldwin, number 59, was our right guard, and we pulled him on our power play to the left. We probably caught out of, I don't know, if we had 40 rushing attempts, probably 30 of them were the same exact play over and over again. And he just played super physical, confident, lots of great energy. He's a state finalist wrestler and just as tough as nails. He was really outstanding for us up front. Colin Frana plays our H-back tight end. And, we just don't throw to him in that position a whole lot. And we're excited that he was able to get a touchdown. And he has basically been like a sixth lineman. Our offensive line has kind of adopted him, and he's tall, rangy, 6'6", 220 pounds. And so we're excited about him to get a touchdown and get an opportunity to show what he could do in the passing game. Those two guys are just kind of unsung heroes for us that I definitely wanted to mention. But, the secondary, Drew Bourgeois, who's undersized, is not the tallest person on the field, but he's just got that dog in him, and he's like a honey badger out there. He's making plays, and he did it again. Had an interception, just weaving in and out on guys, giving us great field position. But he just always makes plays. He's great in coverage. They had some matchup, advantages, and he's out leaping and breaking passes up. So those guys definitely. And then Jack Como is a big play threat for us receiver. I think he's gotten, he had a long one against Ascension Catholic. Then he had one against Episcopal. He had one against Northeast. He's always good for a big play. And if you don't respect him and honor him, he's going to burn you every time.
Yeah, it seems like every time I watch y'all play, he makes at least one or two big plays in the game.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So now this is a dominant game, 42-0, arch rival. I mean, the crowd was packed. It was a big game, and it was a big game throughout the whole week. But now y'all are in the driver's seat of the district. So right now everybody's gunning for y'all because y'all are number one right now. But you'll have to turn around and play against a very explosive East Louisiana squad that can really score. They have a 6'6", 6'7" receiver, Trudez Green, and a quarterback that is a really talented thrower of the football. But what's just really the message throughout the week, and just to move on from last week and focus on the task at hand this week, which is East Louisiana.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a lot of respect for East Louisiana and what they can do. They've improved tremendously on defense as well this year. And, they got a lot of guys back on that side of the ball. Last year offensively, they were scoring all the time, but had a little trouble stopping folks. That hasn't necessarily been the case the second half of the season for them. And so certainly going to be a challenge this week. Obviously, you watch the film, the receiver really stands out, but the truth is they've got other players that have more catches than him. He's just obviously a big target. Quarterback Dawson does a great job of really controlling the offense. It's a lot of him checking at the line, seeing what he likes, and calling plays himself. And he does a great job with it. Their offense is a lot of fun to watch. I hope it's really boring and terrible this week, but they're very good. But for us, when we played Northeast, who was just young and inexperienced, we told our guys the focus was on us, and we went out and we executed well. And then when we played Episcopal, who's undefeated and highly ranked, we said the focus is on us. And so that's not going to change. That's our recipe for success, and we like that formula.
Yeah, hopefully it's not as back and forth as you would like it from last year, because I know it was a back and forth football game. So really throughout the rest of the season, I know it was one of those games. I mean, you love it as a coach against Episcopal, but at the same time, you don't really love it because usually like, okay, we need to work on this and this and this. But in that game where everything was just, dominant as it was, it's like, well, we have to find something that we can work on and strive for. But what moving forward throughout the rest of the season, what do you think really the Tigers can improve on and get better?
Yeah, I think every week there's something that you can look at and say, hey, we got to do a better job here. We're constantly looking for ways to get better. There was a lot of things that we were excited about, but we also had 7 penalties in the game, and we want to clean those things up for sure. It took back a long touchdown run for Colin Bolt. We didn't end up scoring that drive, or no, we ended up scoring later on. But there's things like that we always want to clean up. Of course, I truly believe if you go through a game and you have no penalties, you probably lost because you weren't playing very aggressive. I mean, players are going to make mistakes. They're going to get called for something if they're trying their best to make a play and be physical. That's just going to happen. What we want to do is make sure it doesn't happen because of a lack of discipline. And so we always want to be under control with the things that we're doing. So we'll continue to try to improve on those things. And certainly we're going to have to be disciplined this week to have success on Friday out in Clinton.
That's right, Coach. And I know I'm about to let you go, and then you need to go and start practice with those guys. But what's just really the practice plan for this week, just the whole week? Just is there a certain theme or message you want to give across these guys when you're playing against East Louisiana?
Yeah, I mean, nothing changes for this week necessarily. I mean, obviously what they do on offense affects some of the calls that we may make on defense. And the same thing goes for our offense, trying to adjust what they do schematically on defense compared to what we've done before. So those kind of things happen from week to week. One of the things that I told our kids is, my dad for years had his 10 commandments of football. Mm-hmm. And one of those commandments was never let a loss one week prevent victory the next week. And so I amended that, said, let's not let a loss or a big win prevent victory. We don't want that hangover effect. And so yesterday, Monday's practice, I thought was really good. The kids were locked in and ready to move on, very, very businesslike. And so we're going to need to continue that trend moving forward.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time as always. I know that you need to get practice. I'm not going to try and hold you up too much, but I appreciate your time, Coach, as always. And congratulations. Obviously, it wasn't surprising on the result of the football game because it was a game that can go either way, but it was definitely surprising on what the scoreboard showed and how dominant y'all actually were. So it's really a credit to y'all, the coaches staff, and really for the fans too, for really making the atmosphere as intense for the road team. So congratulations on a great week, and hopefully y'all continue to build on that moving to the playoffs.
All right. Thanks so much, Jace. We appreciate you covering us.
when I turn up the bass. They love it when I turn up the bass. They love it when I turn up the bass. They love it when I turn up the bass.
Well, hope y'all enjoyed that interview, and I know that you just saw the recent commercial too for a Gridiron football bowl game, and we're starting to get some more and more commitments for the bowl game, but we're kind of going towards the end of the regular season, and if you're a player that gets invited to play in this great football game, I would hop on that opportunity as soon as you get the message, and it's just really first come, first serve as far as who is going to get that spot to play in the bowl game. And there's a limited opportunities, limited spots. So I would hop on it. If you get an invite from Andy to play in this great football game, I would definitely do so. And there's a really good chance that by the end of it, you're going to get a college offer. I mean, just look at the numbers. Close to 100%. I mean, it's close to perfect as far as who gets an offer to play for a college football team by the end of it. And you get to be coached by some of the best names out there in football history. Some big names are going to be actually coaching throughout the week. It's not just about the game, it's all about the week. The whole week prepares you. This prepares really you, all the players, for what college football, what that's going to be like on week in, week out. So it's a great environment. It's going to be a great week. I'm super excited to be a part of it, and it's another way to get another vacation in, because it's going to be in Orange Beach, Alabama at the end of December. So if you get an offer, make sure you fill out the form and do everything that you need to do in order to play in this great game, because you're not going to want to miss it, and you're going to regret it if you decide to pass upon that opportunity. So if I was a player, if I were you, if you're a high school player that gets invited to play in the Gridiron Football All-American Bowl game, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth committing to it, because you're going to have the time of your life for that week. It's going to be a great week to cover, and I'm super excited for it at the end of the season. So if you get an offer from Andy, yeah, make sure you commit. I mean, as soon as you get the offer, I will not wait. I will not hesitate. Get it done if you receive an offer from us. Now we're going to talk a little bit of high school football, just kind of give an update on what's going on around the state of Louisiana. And a team that's really impressed me so far is Trowings Catholic. That has been the most impressive team to me because of what they're able to do week in, week out against some of the toughest teams in the state. They just prove it week in and week out. You look at the schedule, they snapped St. Charles Catholic's winning streak. It was them and Zachary having the winningest streak in Louisiana high school football prior to that point. And Trowings Catholic, all they did was just beat them and snap that winning streak. And they did so again. I was actually at the second time they did it, and that was when Trowings Catholic played Westgate. I was actually there covering that football game, and you actually can go back to Gridiron Football, USA.com, and check out that game recap. But that was a good performance then. And if you're still not sold with them defeating the defending state champion Westgate Tigers, you would have to be sold now because they did so this past week against one of the top programs that there is when it comes to the cream of the crop in Louisiana high school football. They did so again against LCA. I'm very impressed with Trowings Catholic. They can win in a variety of different ways. Preston Welsh, if you haven't seen this kid play quarterback, he is phenomenal. He's only a junior, and he is big time. He's got a lot of receivers to throw the football, including a very explosive Kentrell Prejean at wide receiver, who set many records for Trowings Catholic, a lot of single-game records for the Rebels. They can run the football. They play really good defense. They don't really have a lot of weaknesses. And anytime that you can beat St. Charles Catholic, you beat LCA, you beat Westgate, those aren't flukes. If you do it once, okay, maybe it's a fluke. You do it twice, okay, maybe lightning strikes twice every now and then. If it's 3 times, it's a habit. And this team has good habits. They are a really good football team. And I definitely do not want to play Trowings Catholic when it comes to playoff time. And Coach Chaponche has really got this team rolling right now. And I truly believe if everything goes right, Trowings Catholic has a chance to be a dome team this year. I really think so. And they've been very impressive all season. So that is definitely a team that's not really making they're not getting a lot of hype. They're not getting a lot of the hoopla around the entire state of Louisiana. But you got to start paying attention and start talking about what the Rebels are doing right now, because they are playing some of the best football that there is right now in the state. So here's how the top 10 did in Louisiana high school football. These are basically just from last week from the LSWA, the Louisiana Sports Writers Association. This is what they ranked their top 10. And just looking at some of the results, Dutchtown, they've been, it seems like it's kind of hard saying that they are quietly undefeated, but they are. They've been just taking care of business every single week. They beat Terrebonne 42-6. Endicott, they beat Jesuit 33-17. Now you look at the record for Endicott and say, okay, they're 3-3, but that was because of them forfeiting 3 games to start the season, because they're really 6-0. You look at their record, and I would not. And that's probably the worst thing that can really happen to a lot of teams with Endicott being 3-3, because you may have like a 9-0, 10-0 season, and then you're going to have to play Endicott early because of what LHSA decided to do with Endicott, which was forfeit them 3 games to start the season. But that's not going to affect Endicott. They're going to still be in the running for it. They're going to still be running for a state championship again. So that's definitely not going to slow them down. They're number 2 in 5A, and then you look at the top 10 as well. Catholic High beat Central 38-17, just taking care of business. And Catholic High, they're going to be motivated. They have 1 loss on the season, and they lost prior to that. Their last loss, I believe, was against Woodlawn, and that's who they play this Friday night. And I know Catholic has been really itching to play against Ricky Collins and that Woodlawn football team. And for Woodlawn, it would be another great opportunity. If they can beat Catholic High, they have the talent that they're capable of. They can beat Catholic High. They've shown it. They beat Catholic High last year, and they were close to being Catholic High the year before that. But I know David Semino is going to get this team ready to roll. I know that these Catholic High Bears are really motivated to play. This could be a really good football game, and that could really decide a lot of things for the district championship. And for Catholic, I know that they can't be. The main thing for them is not to look far ahead, because a lot of people are thinking that Zachary and Catholic is going to be the district championship, and it may be, but you can't look too far ahead down the road to the last week of the regular season, because a talented team like Woodlawn can bite you. So I'm looking forward to see what happens there. Ruston defeated Pineville 62-0. Acadiana and John Curtis played against each other, and two of the powerhouse programs in the state of Louisiana. That's a lot of state championships combined when you talk about John Curtis and when you talk about Acadiana. And John Curtis, that's a big win. I mean, John Curtis has a couple of good wins recently. They shut out Rummel in dominant fashion, and they're coming off that win. And all of a sudden they turn around and they beat Acadiana 35-14, and that's they won by a pretty good score. And Acadiana is a really good football team. Besides Zachary, it's been really Zachary or Acadiana when it comes to winning state championships. The last 5 or 6 years has really become either one of those football teams that comes out on top. And John Curtis, maybe they've had a couple down years here and there, but right now John Curtis is one of JT's best teams he's had in a while, and since probably the last time they won a state championship. And this could be a sneaky team when it comes to the playoffs, and that can be really a dark horse when it comes to the state championship. Parkway, their undefeated season comes to an end. They lost to CE Bird 39-14. Good season for Coach Brotherton and Parkway. It's still a really good season. They still got a lot to play for, obviously, but their undefeated season is over. They fall to 6-1 for the season. They lost to a really good CE Bird football team. Great win for Coach Ballou, Stacy Ballou, for the Yellow Jackets, and to get that win over Parkway that's been riding high on the undefeated season, that was very impressive. And West Monroe beats West Washita as well. Moving down to 4A, I already talked about Trowens Catholic and LCA. And LCA lost to Trowens Catholic. This was LCA's second loss of the season. Their first came against Ruston earlier this year. And Trowens Catholic is still undefeated and riding high right now. That's another impressive win to their resume. It's not like they're undefeated and they played a lot of cupcakes. That is far from the truth, because they have played a gauntlet of a schedule all season long. St. Thomas More still only has that one loss this season, which was to Catholic High. And Coach Hightower's done a great job of making sure those guys are focused and moving on to the next game. And they really are. And Northside, it's what they beat 49-7. Warren Easton defeated Frederick A. Douglass 56-0. Coach Jerry Phillips is doing a great job at Warren Easton this year. I think this is one of the best coaching jobs he's had and he's done this year, considering that this is a very young team. Devil defeated Grant 55-0. Westgate bounced back. They've done a great job of bouncing back ever since losing to Trowens Catholic and having the streak snap for them. They beat North Vermilion 39-7. Let's see what else. Letcher defeated Hahnville. That's always a good River Parish rivalry between those two programs, Letcher and Hahnville. And you already saw or heard me talk about Dewanye Winfield from Letcher, and he was able to run for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also threw for another touchdown. It is really surprising that Dwayne Winfield has only have a couple of offers to this point. Like, this kid can flat out play. I mean, he's just a football player. He's a dual threat quarterback. He has over 1,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing. And when Dwayne Jenkins, who's coached a lot of great quarterbacks over his coaching career in Louisiana, says that he's never seen a quarterback take over playoff games like he saw Winfield did last year, that is high praise coming from Coach Dwayne Jenkins, who's been around some pretty good quarterbacks over the years. And this kid is special. He is a really good football player, and a Division I school is going to get a steal when getting him as their quarterback, or even in any other position. He's just one of those. He's a football player. He can play pretty much whatever you need him to play, and he's definitely one of the best quarterbacks out there in the state. And he doesn't give enough praise, but he is really good. Also, let's see, North DeSoto beats Evangel. That is the Dennis Dunn game. I guess you can call it the Dennis Dunn game. And Dennis Dunn was able to get the best of his former team, Evangel Christian, which was a team he built into a powerhouse. And I know that game means a lot to Dennis Dunn. And to go and play his former team, where he had so much success at. I know he may play it off as like it was another win for the program, but for him personally, it meant a little bit more to him. Anytime you defeat a team that you helped build a football dynasty for, and you go and coach somewhere else, where he's at North DeSoto now, trying to establish that again and trying to build something special at North DeSoto because they're undefeated right now. I know that win means a lot. Dennis Dunn has won a lot of state championships. He's coached at the college level, but I guarantee you that is definitely a game that he's going to remember for a long time, being his former team. And Opelousas is continuing to be strong too, defeating Livonia 41-13. So that was your top 10 in Class 4A, and also a game that it looks like the stars will align. And you heard me say this when I was talking on the Player of the Week show, but Plaquemine and West Louisiana, they're the only two undefeated teams in the Baton Rouge area. And the stars align for them to match up against each other for a district championship, and what should be one of the, definitely the best games or the biggest games in the area for that week. Moving down to 3A, this was a sweet game for Union Parish to defeat Sterlington, because Union Parish has come so close. They play each other multiple times a year because they play each other in district, but they also have the misfortune of running into each other a lot in the playoffs because they're really the two of the best teams in Class 3A. These two teams met last year in the state championship in Class 3A last year, and that was when Sterlington won that game and capped off an undefeated season, defeating Union Parish. But I know Trey Holly, Coach Spatafora, this was a game they really wanted, and especially Trey, knowing how he really is and how he really ticks. All the rushing records, all that is good, but he just wants to win football games. He wants to win a state championship, and beating Sterlington was really sweet for him personally, just because of they came up short a couple of times against Sterlington, including in the state championship game. So for him to get that win, for Union Parish to get that win, that is going to help them a whole lot when we get to the playoffs, because I know Trey Holly has a remarkable career as he has had at the high school level. He wants to end it on a very high note, the highest of high notes, and that is carrying a state championship trophy with him back to Farmerville from New Orleans. And that's a good way to do it when you go over the hump and be a team that will be right there as well for a Class 3A state title. E.D. White defeated Donaldsonville 41-8. E.D. White is still strong, and they are showing that last year and really the year before wasn't any fluke, and they're going to be here for a while. I mean, as far as competing and consistently competing for championships, and that's what I thought the coach was saying about, that he wants this group to contend for state championships. And right now, their only loss came against Woodlawn, and that was when Woodlawn had to come back and get that win. U-High lost to Madison Prep. You heard me talk about this game with Tyler. Tyler was there to cover that football game. It was a classic. He talked about how Madison Prep had a big lead, and U-High came back, and it was just back and forth, and that was a classic game. We knew that game would decide the district championship, and it looks like that Madison Prep will be the district champions for that district. But that's a huge win for Madison Prep as far as like going to contend for a state championship. That anytime you can go and beat the Cubs of U-High, that is tough. And the way and the fashion that Madison Prep was able to do so, that's even more impressive. Huge win for Coach Williams in Madison Prep. Had some up and downs really to start the season, but I really think that this offense is clicking right now. This team is clicking, and it shows what kind of really skilled talent that Madison Prep really has. And they are right there in position. They lost Zion Chris last year. The quarterback is now playing for the Raging Cajuns. They lost Quincy Wiggins last year. He's playing for the LSU Tigers. But they're not slowing down. This is a football powerhouse. This is a football program. You become a football powerhouse when you consistently win every single year, no matter who you have to replace, who you have to lose. And Madison Prep is turning into that, especially when you're defeating teams that have established themselves like U-High. St. James defeats Patterson. St. James is quietly really confident football team right now. 55-13 over Patterson. Iowa defeated Westlake 27-0. Pine defeated Amy. That was a big win for Pine to go and defeat the Amy Warriors. That's their third loss this season. So Amy's trying to, figure some things out right now. They played some really good football teams. Their two losses came against Hammond, and then the week before they lost to Bogalusa before losing to Pine. But I know by playoff time, Amy's going to be a very dangerous team and could make another deep run in the playoffs. But that's a huge win for Coach Seal, though, for the Pine Raiders. Carroll's still undefeated up in North Louisiana. And, you look at all the teams up in Monroe with Oak Grove, Sterlington, Neville. You just go on and on. But it's Carroll right now. That's that undefeated team. And they are playing really good football right now. Carroll Bulldogs are at a really good spot right now. Abbeville defeated Crowley 49-20. Bogalusa is still looking pretty strong this year. John F. Kennedy is as well. Parfrey Baptist defeated Broadmoor 58-0. Berwick's still looking pretty strong, 6-1. They've lost. Now, they did lose this past week against Central Catholic, but that's not a bad loss. Central Catholic's a really good football team. DeMondre Blackburn's a really good running back for Central Catholic for the Eagles. And Berwick's having a really good football season still, so you can't take that away from them. Manny's still riding strong, rolling around in Class 2A, 42-14. Newman had a bye week this past week. And how about St. Martinville? It's been kind of a struggle this year for St. Martinville, but that's a big win for Coach Duran and the St. Martinville High School football team. 35-25, they defeated St. Charles Catholic. St. Charles Catholic. Wayne Stein said before the season that this was going to be a season with a lot of growing pains, and they're kind of going through them like the middle of the season, but I have total faith in that coaching staff. They're one of the best coaching staffs in the state of Louisiana. They're going to get those kids right. The kids are going to be in position, be in good position to win football games, so I'm not really worried about them. But anyway, that was a good win, though, for St. Martinville. I talked to you about early on about Dunham and Episcopal. Episcopal was riding high. They won like 30 straight regular season games. They've had coming back off of 2 straight undefeated district championships. And Dunham, man, they lost a thrower last year. They felt like that they really needed to win that football game, that they had the chances to win that football game, and that was theirs to lose, and they lost it. So all season long, Dunham really won this football game. You just saw the interview that I did with Coach Weiner talking about that football game. The atmosphere was huge. It was a great atmosphere for a football game. It felt like a playoff type atmosphere at this point of the season. And Dunham just won it. You can tell. They played from the very start wanting that football game. They were motivated, and they were just a bigger, more physical team than the Episcopal was that night. But Coach Travis Bourgeois and the Knights, they're going to be bouncing back. They have a chance to end the regular season on a high note, with another young football team, and to have only one loss the last 3 years in the regular season. That is still very impressive. If they're able to win the rest of their football games, which looking at their schedule, there's a good chance that they will do that. But It looks like that the district now is a huge district game though for Dunham because they have East Feliciana coming up. But I mean, right now Dunham's in the driver's seat for a district championship, and if so, that is a well-deserved district championship. But I know both Dunham and Episcopal will be in the thick of things when it comes to the playoffs and making a run. Mangum beat Masson 54-6, and you know that their running backs having a great year this year. And Jalen Williams, and he's one of the most surprising stories. I mean, we knew that he was a really good running back, but the season that he is having is an incredible story this year. Calvary Baptist defeated Green Oaks 51-14. Notre Dame defeated Vinton 41-6. North Cal defeated Lakeside 68-25. Avoyelles defeated Menard 60-0. And then Oak Grove defeated Faraday 57-22. That kind of goes into my game of the week on Thursday. I'm going to see Southern Lab and the Avoyelles play. I'm looking forward to seeing that football game. Avoyelles, we talked a whole lot about them. They had a running back that was our player of the week last week in week 6. But that's a team that's going to run the football a whole lot. They want to keep the football. They want to play time of possession. They don't want their defense to touch the football field. And they don't want, that's not what they want. They don't want their defense to touch the field at all. So they want to play time of possession. And they're going to have a challenge when you're playing against a very athletic, very physical football team for Southern Lab. Southern Lab won the state championship last year, and that's going to be a really good football game. And Southern Lab right now is 4-2. They're coming off a 68-0 win over Thrive Academy. And we move on to 1A. As I mentioned Southern Lab before, Homer, they went out to play a team in Prescott, Arkansas. They lost 9-0. That was the second loss this season for the defending Class 1A state champs. Washita Christian defeated River Oaks 48-0. Vermilion Catholic still undefeated. They beat Jeanerette 53-0. Kentwood beat McDonald 29-12. That's actually a good win for Coach Foster and the Kangaroos defeating McDonald 35. Their only loss came to a game that I actually saw them play, and that was against the A-Meat Warriors in a defensive struggle. Logan Sport defeated Northwood Gina 52-0. Riverside defeated West St. John 47-0. Glenbrook has the longest winning streak in the state right now. Like I mentioned, Turlings Catholic defeated 2 of those streaks against St. Charles Catholic and Westgate, and because of those street busters up there in at Turlings Catholic in Lafayette, now the longest winning streak in the state belongs to the Glenbrook Apaches, led by head coach David Feaster, and they just only been a couple years in the LHSA really, so really a smooth transition from them from the MAIS League to the LHSAA. It's been a smooth transition, smoother than that transition as I was trying to pronounce LHSAA. Rounding out the top 10, Counterpoint-Capee lost to Opelousas Catholic, and that was their first loss of the season. Counterpoint-Capee was riding high with a 6-0 record. So we've seen some undefeated teams lose this week. We did, as I said, Berwick before, and Episcopal lost. They were an undefeated team. But yeah, I mean, right now it's just there's not too many undefeated teams out there. Haynesville beat Arcadia to round the top 10 in Class 1A. They're 6-1. So looking at Manny's still undefeated. And that's not comes out as a shock right there. Church Point, they've been another really dominant regular season team, and they're undefeated right now at 7-0. And Davis South still undefeated 6-0. Trolling still undefeated 7-0. North DeSoto is still undefeated at 7-0. Destrehan, that's not a shocking one, 7-0. There's only a couple of teams left that are undefeated. I'm sure I'm not saying all of them. I'm sure there's a couple other ones that I'm missing out on, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough in Louisiana high school football, and really the good football teams, they really play against each other. Like in non-district and district play, it's just the way that's really set up because not a lot of teams are really equipped to play those tough football teams. A lot of if you have a culture established, if you're a top powerhouse football team in the state, you're most likely playing teams, top teams in Louisiana, or you're going out of state in playing some of the top teams in other states when you're not playing in district play. And if you're a team that's trying to build a culture, you're really trying to get wins. You're trying to schedule against teams that are pretty much at your level or maybe below, just to build some confidence. And that's just really the difference in schedule making. But really, the teams that are undefeated still, they deserve to be undefeated. With the teams that I was just talking about, some of the best teams in the state. But we're going to go less and less than that number as we go towards the end of the regular season and to the playoffs. And I'm going to check in every now and then and see how the high school football teams are doing as we go towards the second half of the regular season. So that's some of my high school football thoughts from me there. And then for college football, man, how about Tennessee? How about old Rocky Top? I was kind of annoyed by hearing Rocky Top being played over and over again at the LSU football game. But I was pulling for them against Alabama. I felt like this was the best chance for Tennessee to finally end the streak. I think it's been about 15 years since they last defeated Alabama before even Nick Saban even took over for Alabama. But Hendon Hooker, he's the real deal. And he was number one in my Heisman votes before the Alabama game, but this established me that it's going to be his year. You look at the Heisman Trophy probably the last decade or so, it's always been a player that's just maybe not coming out of nowhere, but he wasn't the favorite coming in. Joe Burrow really came out of nowhere when he won the Heisman Trophy in 2019. I expected that he would have a good season, did not expect him to have the season like he did. And he really did. I mean, it was everything just kind of came together for Joe Burrow to have what I say the greatest single season performance I ever seen from a college quarterback. By far, Cam Newton had his year. He really came out of nowhere too for the Auburn Tigers. He wasn't like the Heisman favorite or anything heading into the season. Jameis Winston, when he had his season, he wasn't like a Heisman favorite coming into the season. So Hendon Hooker, there was some noise about him being a really good quarterback, being all SEC. I don't think there was a lot of noise heading into the season for him being a Heisman Trophy contender and maybe a chance to win the Heisman Trophy. But I think he's proven his worth, what he was able to do this past week. And with that performance, he has to be the running for the Heisman Trophy, and also Jalen Hyatt put him in the running for the Blitnikoff. I mean, I think you just kind of give him the Blitnikoff right now. 5 touchdown catches against Alabama, a school record. I mean, he's incredible. I mean, I was very impressed with him when they played against LSU, and he had 6 catches, 207 yards, 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I think you got to put him. Hey, might as well put him in the Heisman conversation too, because I don't think it should be just quarterbacks. If you're the best player at your position, I feel like that you need to be in the running for the Heisman Trophy, and I might as well put 2 Tennessee Vols in the running right now. And that quarterback wide receiver combo is the best in the country. Clemson, this survived. I wouldn't say survived the late rally against Florida State, but it took care of business. That was one of those games that was much more lopsided than the score really indicated. Florida State had a couple late scores in the football game to make it a little bit closer, but Clemson was in control right there, and they really survived a tough environment going to Doak Campbell and Florida State, but they're able to find a way to get the victory. And Clemson remains undefeated. Michigan, man, they blew out Penn State 41-17. That was, I mean, I wasn't surprised that Michigan won, but I was surprised how much they won by. And Blake Corum, he needs more hype when it comes to maybe even the Heisman, because he just consistently every single week you see him making plays for the Wolverines, running the football. At least it looks like that he may be the top candidate right now for the Doak Walker right now with the way that he is playing, and Edwards too running the football. They got a good running back tandem there, and J.J. McCarthy is doing what he can, just playing good football, just trying not to spoil anything up or screw anything up for the Michigan Wolverines. USC and Utah. How about the Utes defeating number 7 USC, upsetting them 43-42. Utah goes for 2 and they get the victory. I knew at some point I didn't think USC would be a college football playoff team, that they would stumble along the way. And this just happened to be it. I didn't expect Lincoln Riley to make the playoff for USC. I think he's going to eventually get there, maybe as soon as even next year. But just in year one, I didn't think that he would be in the playoff starting year number 1. But Utah with a big victory, and it didn't come as a total shock to me that they played spoiler against USC, because that's a team that they really match up pretty good against in the Pac-12. But right now, as far as the Pac-12 goes, UCLA is still riding high right now, still undefeated, and maybe USC still has a chance. They go the rest of the way undefeated, but right now, maybe either one of the 2 Los Angeles teams right now, as far as the Pac-12's really best chances for the playoff. TCU comes back. I mean, they were down by a couple possessions. I was out of town this past weekend, but when I checked the score, Oklahoma State was up by a couple possessions, and then TCU came back to win the football game in overtime. And I think that is a game that you can really take TCU seriously. I think that was that final hurdle to see what they can possibly do, and they were able to do that. They were able to go overcome that hurdle. Max Duggan is playing as good as any quarterback out there in the country, and TCU really needs to be they need to get credit for what they're able to do, and what first-year head coach Sonny Dykes is doing at TCU is really been one of the most underrated stories this season in the world of college football. Syracuse is still undefeated, and that sets up an undefeated matchup between them and Clemson. And Syracuse they beat Clemson a couple of times before in years past when they had those great teams with Deshaun Watson at the beginning of Clemson's dynasty. Syracuse has been one of those few teams in the ACC that's really given them trouble over the years, and that should be a really good football team, a really good test for Dabo Swinney next week. Kentucky defeated Mississippi State. That was a good bounce-back game for Kentucky, as they lost a couple of games in a row. Mississippi State was riding high ever since the LSU loss. They've been playing as good as anybody in the country, but for that game, Kentucky was just a better team at home, and they're able to get a big victory over Mississippi State. Oklahoma, they desperately needed a bounce-back win, and they got it against Kansas. It's been a tough season this year for Coach Venables and Oklahoma, but this wasn't your normal Kansas football team that they beat. This is a ranked Kansas team that was undefeated a couple weeks ago, but still good victory for Oklahoma to get the win and get some positive reinforcement for the football team. That is always good. And then Texas defeats Iowa State to kind of wrap up the top 25, and that really sets up, we'll go towards later in the season, some really good matchups, and it should be a good week in college football this week. I know Oklahoma State plays Texas, Oregon plays UCLA. That should be a really good football game. Obviously, LSU, Ole Miss, the CBS game, Syracuse and Clemson. There's some good games, some interesting games out there. I mean, Alabama, I'm curious to see what Alabama does with Mississippi State, with both those two teams coming off of losses. Kansas State and TCU should be a really good football game. So a decent slate in college football this week. Well, that's going to be pretty much it for me here on The Chase with Jason. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the show today. Please tell your friends, tell your family members, coaches, players, whoever. Make sure you share the show. We definitely appreciate everybody that watches it, and make sure that you spread the word out as we want to try to grow this show more and more. Appreciate Gridiron Football, obviously, with Andy Bryson and what all he's done for high school and college football here for Gridiron Football. And like I said, if you're a player that has an invitation to play in the bowl game, make sure you take advantage of it. I would not wait on it. I would make sure you have all the paperwork signed and sent to Annie as soon as possible. Well, guys, it's been a good week. We're just like, it's just been consistently week in, week out. We're just going into the meat of the college football season, the high school football season. But it's fun, and that's what it's all about. And we're just continuing to get better and better as each day is growing. Well, guys, hope y'all enjoyed the show. And we'll catch y'all next week as well. Next week, same time and same day, Wednesday afternoon. So make sure you check us out on the Chase with Jace next week. And I always end the show by asking that I'm Chase, and make sure that the show is going to be as good as possible. And I just want to ask you, what are you chasing for in order to hit perfection? And that's what it's all about. It's all about the chase. And that's why I call the show The Chase with Jace. Hope y'all have yourself a good week, a good football week, and we'll see y'all next week on The Chase with Jace. What are you chasing for?